Chapter 1440. Yi Qinghan was very satisfied with Azure Void Dragon's attitude and didn't make things difficult for him. Azure Void Dragon brought the excited Yao Tian into the room. He smiled at Yi Qinghan and said, "Yao Tian is very lucky to have a brother like you. This old man is very pleased. Ha ha ha, for me, having a brother like you is my fortune." Yi Qinghan laughed. What he said was true. If it weren't for the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King, he wouldn't have been able to reach the merfolk's mainland. Azure Void Dragon laughed and rubbed his hands. He probed, "Since we're family, then let's not talk like strangers. This old man came here to trade for the 3 great sections of the vast sea devouring the heavens. I don't know if you're willing to part with them." Yi Qinghan lightly said, "Naturally, we can trade. After all, the sea dragons live in the void ocean, so we have no conflict with each other. However, the price must be negotiated. I need resources, the more the better. Moreover, I'll have to wait until I leave the void ocean before I can give them to Yao Tian." Azure Void Dragon awkwardly asked, "Well, does fellow Taoist not trust my sea dragon clan?" "I'm sorry, but aside from my true brothers, I don't trust anyone else. It's better for everyone to have a backup plan. If someone gets greedy and tries to steal my resources and fails, I'll take them down with me if I get angry. It wouldn't be good to hurt the innocent people of Sea Dragon Weave either, right?" Yi Qinghan calmly replied. Yi Qinghan's tone was calm, but Void Dragon felt a chill run down his spine. Yi Qinghan's words made it clear that if he was ambushed in Sea Dragon Weave and his resources were stolen, he would come to the central continent and self-destruct. Everyone would die together. Fellow Taoist, rest assured. There won't be anyone in the Sea Dragon Weave who would be blind. Azure Void Dragon repeatedly guaranteed. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, "I don't want to be high-profile. If you announce it to the world, even an idiot will know that I have a treasure on me. It will definitely attract experts to fight over it. If you kill me, they will escape and you won't be able to find them." The Void Azure Dragon nodded in agreement with Yi Qinghan's words. The void ocean was boundless. Once someone committed a crime, they could run away and no one would be able to catch them. "Alright then, let's trade the first 2 chapters first," the Void Dragon said straightforwardly. Yi Qinghan stared at the Void Dragon and said, "Price, I hope that the Sea Dragon Patriarch won't say a price that will make me laugh my teeth off. This old man will definitely not treat you unfairly. I'll pay you 5 times the price you quoted earlier. I really want to trade with you. Of course, I want to trade the 3rd piece of the laws even more," the Void Dragon said. 5 times the price wasn't too expensive. Even 10 times the price would be worth it. The Void Dragon understood this. However, Yi Qinghan didn't ask for much. He wasn't stupid enough to take the initiative to increase the price. This was only the price of the first 2 chapters. As for the 3rd chapter, it was the real deal. If the Void Dragon had the luck to become a realm lord, it wouldn't be impossible for him to become a legendary heavenly beast. Therefore, the price would be terrifying. As for the price of the first 2 chapters, Yi Qinghan didn't care about it and nodded in agreement. "Here are the resources. I've already prepared them. Fellow Taoist can count them. There's also a peak-grade origin sacred stone that is close to saturation. Once it explodes, it would be equivalent to a pseudo-realm lord exploding. The range of destruction would be about 3,000 li. No living being would be able to escape within this range." The Void Dragon handed over a spatial ring. It was simple and unadorned. The patterns on it were very beautiful, but the space inside wasn't too big. Yi Qinghan received it and dripped his blood on it to bind it. He roughly scanned it and found a peak-grade origin sacred stone that was close to saturation. This grade of origin sacred stone was many times higher than the 3 origin sacred stones in Brilliant Skies collection. Yi Qinghan was very satisfied. He stored the spatial ring into his body and leaned on the chair. He stared at the void dragon and asked, "Give me a price." Of course, according to the real price, I wouldn't be able to afford it even if I sold the entire marine race continent. I'm only selling it because of Yao Tian. This. I understand. The White Fan Saint clan is an existence that represents luck. They are the foundation of this world. The secret techniques of the Saint clan have no price. The Void Dragon replied. The Void Dragon looked at Yi Qinghan and thought for a long time. He didn't know how to quote a price. If he quoted a low price, it would be the same as angering Yi Qinghan. If he quoted a high price, it would affect the inheritance of the Sea Dragon clan. Fellow Taoist, how about I take you to the treasury of the Sea Dragon clan? You can choose any treasures you want. You can also consider what you lack and I'll try my best to find it for you. How about it? The Void Dragon asked. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment. The Sea Dragon clan's inheritance had been passed down for so many years. He didn't know how many resources there were in the treasury. It would be best if he could go in and pick what he wanted. Therefore, he immediately agreed. I'll write down the rain summoning first and then hand it over to you. Yi Qinghan replied. The Void Dragon was naturally happy. Soon, only Yi Qinghan was left in the room. He was writing the rain summoning by himself. In the territory of the sea race, gales were whistling and heavy rain was pouring down. It seemed as if it was going to drown the entire continent. Yi Qinghan's words and actions could summon the wind and rain. The rain was filled with killing intent that could seize people's souls. The Void Dragon's face was filled with joy when he saw the changes in the world. He couldn't wait to get his hands on the rain summoning technique. This was a secret technique that existed specifically for the Dragon clan. It could summon the wind and rain, control the laws of the sea, and devour the heavens. With Yi Qinghan's current cultivation, he could only display this much strength. If he were to reach the pseudo-realm Lord Realm, the rain he summoned would be like a divine weapon that could pierce through the bodies of the sea race experts and devour their vitality. However, just this aura alone was enough to frighten people. Writing the rain summoning technique required a large amount of soul force. Yi Qinghan wasn't in a hurry. He wrote one page and then rested. He made sure that his soul was in a state of high tension so that he could counterattack at any time. At the very least, he could ensure that he had the ability to self-detonate. He wrote the rain summoning technique for an entire night. It wasn't until the next morning that Yi Qinghan stopped writing and rested for a moment. After absorbing a large amount of resources, his soul force recovered very quickly. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Looking at the rain summoning technique, he felt a sense of accomplishment. However, he was worried in his heart. The law summoning technique didn't only require one soul force to write, it also required a boundless amount of energy. At the very least, one had to be at the peak of the pseudo-realm Lord Realm in order to write it. Right now, his cultivation was only at the peak of the paramount God realm. There was a huge gap between the two realms. No matter how good his talent was or how much resources he had, it was impossible for him to reach the peak of the pseudo-realm Lord Realm in a short time. Yi Qinghan was worried in his heart. However, his face was expressionless as he handed the rain summoning technique to the Void Dragon. The Void Dragon looked at the rain summoning technique and carefully flipped through it. He immediately treated it as a treasure and hid it away as if he was afraid that someone would steal it. Dao friend, please follow me to the forbidden area of the Sea Dragon clan. You can choose from the treasury. The Void Dragon said excitedly. Chapter 1441. Dragon Mountain was a dragon-shaped mountain range that stretched on endlessly. The head of the dragon was facing upwards, as if it wanted to fly into the sky. Clouds and mist lingered about, shrouding half of the mountain. The surrounding area was lush and verdant, as though everything was in its original state. It was indescribably beautiful. There were dragon celestial grasses everywhere, and their levels were very high. Level 11 dragon celestial grasses were everywhere, and level 12 dragon celestial grasses could be found occasionally. At this point, Yi Qinghan realized that he had very little resources. Very little. 10 times the amount of resources was a joke to the dragon race. Emperor Yi directly pounced on a gorgeous red flower bush. No matter how strong a woman was, she would not be able to resist such a beautiful temptation. Let's continue forward. Don't worry about her, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan rushed towards Dragon Mountain under Void Dragon's lead, while Yao Tian stayed near Emperor Yi to protect him. Inside Dragon Mountain, the spiritual energy was oppressive. Yi Qinghan and the Void Dragon entered the mountain. A majestic palace came into view. The huge dragon palace was hidden inside the mountain. There were a lot of sea dragon experts cultivating in the surroundings. Although they had yet to awaken, the faint pressure they emitted made people not dare to approach. A few divine senses passed by and discovered the Void Azure Dragon, so they immediately retreated. The Void Azure Dragon brought Yi Qinghan to the outside of the Dragon Palace. In front of the Dragon Palace's mountain gate, there were a few huge stone dragons coiling around. They rushed all the way to the peak of the mountain and had a majestic aura. At the mountain gate, there was a 5-clawed divine dragon pressing down on the stone gate. As long as the dragon claws were not destroyed, the stone gate would definitely not be opened. Furthermore, the material of the dragon claws was definitely special. The stone door was engraved with powerful dragon race runes. The patterns were chaotic. It was unknown how many sea dragon experts had engraved these runes day in and day out. They were passed down from generation to generation. It was impossible to rely on one's wisdom to unlock them one by one. Even if Yi Qinghan had the soul of a realm lord, it would still be impossible for him to unlock them. This place was the foundation of the Azure Void Dragon. Naturally, the sea dragons had set up an impenetrable defense. The Void Dragon let out a low roar and its right hand turned into a dragon claw. It shone with a golden light and clashed with the 5-clawed golden dragon claw on the stone door. The 2 claw marks merged perfectly, and the stone door opened. The primordial energy inside was extremely dense, and it rushed into Yi Qinghan's body. The hair on the surface of his body stood up, and his pores enlarged, desperately absorbing the primordial energy. In just a few breaths, the energy in his body was completely saturated. If he continued to absorb it, he would self-destruct without any control. Yi Qinghan hurriedly sealed off the pores on the surface of his body and took the initiative to isolate himself from the primordial power. Who knows how many things were hidden in the treasure trove for who knows how long. If he pulled Brilliant Sky Ocean Dragon King here, he could easily break through to Pseudo-Sector Lord Middle Stage. Yi Qinghan's aura was restrained, and no one could see the slightest bit of excitement on his face. However, only he knew the ups and downs in his heart. The Void Dragon looked at the emotionless Yi Qinghan, and the corner of his eye twitched. The riches and primordial energy here were so rich that even the clan elder of the Sea Dragon clan would feel emotional. Why was this human not greedy at all? Didn't they say that humans were greedy? Dao friend, please come in. The Void Dragon gestured. Senior, please. Yi Qinghan took a step back and took the initiative to let the Void Dragon enter first. Ha ha ha, Dao friend's heart is really heavy. There aren't any traps inside the treasure trove. My clan has absolute confidence in themselves. Without our permission, no one would be able to force their way in. Therefore, we don't need to set up any traps. The Void Dragon was incomparably confident as he took the initiative to enter the Dragon Palace. The walls of the cave were also engraved with countless runes and law patterns. They were so dense that it was impossible to see what kind of profoundness and laws were contained within. However, the effects weren't weakened, and instead, they were superimposed. The Dragon Mountain was very big, and behind it was the Void Ocean. The Dragon Palace was hidden under the Dragon Mountain. It was close to the ocean, and there were many sea dragon experts guarding it. Indeed, no one would be able to force their way in. If an intact realm lord were to force their way in, then the peak grade origin sacred stone inside the Dragon Palace would explode. All the resources inside would be destroyed, and the realm lord wouldn't be able to escape. The underground palace was very big, so big that it was boundless. It was divided into small inner palaces, and each palace had a lot of treasures. The deeper one went, the higher the grade of the treasures. Yi Qinghan looked at the inner palace that wasn't closed. He couldn't hide his emotions any longer. Rank 11 Dragon Immortal Grass was the best healing medicine in the 9 realms. Even those who had half a foot in hell would be pulled back by this medicine. But here, there was actually a room full of them. The room was filled with hundreds of thousands of Dragon Immortal Grasses. And these treasures were actually placed in the outermost area by the Sea Dragon race. They didn't care because the Dragon Immortal Grass was born because of the Sea Dragon race. As long as the Sea Dragon race wasn't exterminated, they could have as much Dragon Immortal Grass as they wanted. Gulp. Yi Qinghan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Ha ha ha, if fellow Taoist likes it, I can give you a room full of Dragon Immortal Grass. It's only rank 11 Dragon Immortal Grass. My race can harvest a few every year. After so many years, although half of them have been used up, the underground palace can't hold them anymore. We need to clear them out. Void Dragon laughed and said straightforwardly. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. The dragon race was really rich. A room full of rank 11 Dragon Immortal Grass, there were at least hundreds of thousands of them. And they actually said that they couldn't hold them anymore and needed to clear them out. What did they think Dragon Immortal Grass was? Trash. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan didn't hesitate to use his spatial ring and directly swallowed all the Dragon Immortal Grass in the room. This could be considered as helping the dragon race clean up their trash. Do you want me to help you clear a few more rooms of Dragon Immortal Grass? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. These Dragon Immortal Grass were vivid and lifelike, as if they had just been picked. The main reason was that the spiritual qi here was too dense. Even if they were picked, their essence wouldn't be damaged. If you like, you can take another room full of Dragon Immortal Grass. Void Dragon felt a bit of heartache. He felt that he had been too pretentious. Which dragon race didn't love money? If it was really trash, why would they send it to the treasure pavilion? Yi Qinghan didn't hesitate to walk to the next room. He realized that the outer rooms were filled with Dragon Immortal Grass, and they were all rank 11. Yi Qinghan was satisfied with taking away 2 rooms full of Dragon Immortal Grass. If he asked for more, Void Dragon wouldn't be able to take it. This was a friendly gift, and it wasn't considered a transaction in the 3rd chapter of the rules. Walking along the small paths, he looked at the treasures in the big rooms. They were brightly lit, and there were luminous pearls and all kinds of jewelry. Even though this was an underground palace, it was as bright as day. Even the powerful cultivators of the 9 realms liked to collect rare luminous pearls. Yi Qinghan also took a fancy to a few luminous pearls that were the size of a fist. They were actually emitting a 7-colored light, which was very pleasing. He wanted to give them to his women. These luminous pearls are not bad. I'll take them and give them to my women. Your sea race shouldn't be lacking in these things. Senior, you won't mind, right? After saying that, Yi Qinghan didn't care about Void Dragon's expression. He directly took the pearls and put them into his spatial ring. Chapter 1442. The sea dragons loved sparkling pearls, and these treasures were hard to find. Their spiritual energy was very pure, and although there wasn't much of it, they were very beautiful. These things could definitely be sold for a good price among female cultivators, and experts would also compete for them. There was a heart-shaped treasure that emitted a rainbow-colored light. It was extremely beautiful, and Yi Qinghan took it. Azure Void Dragon's eyes began to burn with anger. If Yi Qinghan took something of a higher value, he wouldn't feel bad. However, these things were unique, and if he took them away, they would be gone. But in order to get the law chapter, he had no choice but to part with them. There was another small pearl that looked like a qilin. Its formation was very strange, and after Yi Qinghan took it, he asked, "Senior, you don't mind, right?" Azure Void Dragon's eyes widened, and he didn't say anything for a long time. "If you don't mind, then I'll take it as a yes." After Yi Qinghan said that, he nonchalantly turned around and continued to look for other good pearls. Azure Void Dragon was speechless. After a full hour of searching, Yi Qinghan finally left Ming Zhu's room. Azure Void Dragon let out a breath. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan wasn't greedy and only took 5 or 6 of his favorite pearls. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hold back. The underground palace was rugged, and the primitive spiritual energy assailed his nostrils. Yi Qinghan arrived at the sea race's material area. There were materials for overgod artifacts everywhere, but Yi Qinghan wasn't interested in them. He only cared about going deeper, and he found quite a few pseudo-world artifact materials. Yi Qinghan coughed dryly and suppressed the ecstasy in his heart. He pretended to be calm as he said, "Senior, I'm going to start the official selection. I want everything I order. Please prepare a universe ring and put it away. It will be easier to trade later." Azure Void Dragon's legs went soft. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would be greedy and take away most of the treasures in the treasury. "Of the pseudo-world artifact materials here, I want this, that, and this." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and pointed his finger, causing Su Long to sweat profusely. It had to be known that the sea dragon race had existed for countless years, and the sea dragon weave was boundless. Even if they obtained 3 treasures every year, they would only use 2. How much could they save after several epochs? Innumerable. 1/10. Although the Void Dragon's expression was ugly, it was not to the point of being unwilling. After all, there was nothing that could resist the temptation of becoming a heavenly beast. After the materials for the pseudo-world artifact had been swept clean, Yi Qinghan was not going to let go of such a big treasure trove. He continued to go deeper and found a room with dragon celestial grass. At first glance, he thought it was still a level 11 dragon celestial grass. He was about to skip it when a strong life force went deep into his soul. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. The dragon celestial grass was piled up in half of the room. There were more than 30,000 stalks of dragon celestial grass. They were not level 11 dragon celestial grass, but level 12 dragon celestial grass. The sea dragon race that had existed for countless years only had about 30,000 level 12 dragon celestial grass. It could be seen how precious they were. Yi Qinghan's eyes were burning, and the Void Dragon's heart was trembling. "Fellow Taoist, the dragon celestial grass here is the foundation of my sea dragon race. We cannot sell it wantonly." The Void Dragon uneasily reminded. 1/5. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. "No. Even if you stop the trade, I can't do anything about it. The Sea Dragon Clan Elder will not allow us to sell so many level 12 dragon celestial grass at once." The Void Dragon did not hesitate to refuse. 1/10. It won't affect the survival of the Sea Dragon race. You can make up for it in a few years. Yi Qinghan said. "Why do you need so many level 12 dragon celestial grass? Are you seriously injured every day?" The Void Dragon frowned and asked. Cough, cough. "Wait until I leave the Void Ocean. I'll go find the 7 Realm Lords and kill as many as I can. With level 12 dragon celestial grass, I won't be afraid of them." Yi Qinghan grinned. "What? Find the 7 Realm Lords and kill them? You're the reincarnation of the Desolate Warlord." The Void Dragon was very smart. He thought of Yi Qinghan's realm lord's soul and his words. He was able to guess Yi Qinghan's identity. At this moment, he suddenly retreated and maintained a certain distance. It could be seen that he was afraid of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's expression immediately turned cold. The smile on his face disappeared. Damn, you're really the desolate warlord. Didn't you die? The Void Dragon looked at Yi Qinghan's expression and knew that he had guessed correctly. He was extremely shocked. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and looked at the Void Dragon. A cold light flashed as he asked, "You don't have any relationship with the 7 Realm Lords, do you?" The Void Dragon waved his hand. He was afraid that he would anger Yi Qinghan and kill him. Yi Qinghan's strength wasn't that great, but once the Realm Lord's soul exploded, the Sea Dragon clan's forbidden area would definitely be destroyed. The top clan elders of the Sea Dragon clan wouldn't be able to survive. I don't have any relationship with them. Absolutely not. The Void Azure Dragon replied. That's for the best. We don't have any conflict and shouldn't have. As long as you treat Yao Tian well, I won't mistreat the Sea Dragon clan when I recover my strength. Yi Qinghan said. The Void Dragon was somewhat afraid. In his eyes, realm lords were heavenly beasts, especially the warlord of the desolate warlord. He was an existence that could fight against 7 realm lords. Although he was defeated, it was a glorious defeat. With his soul standing here, even if he was a peak paramount god, no one would be able to stop him from exploding. He. Since you're the warlord of the desolate warlord, I'll agree to your request. 1/10, 3000 rank 12 dragon immortal grasses. The Void Dragon smiled. I hope that you're the only one who knows my identity. Also, I have 2 clones. I can give up one of them at any time. Yi Qinghan faintly warned. Don't worry, I'm not a talkative person. I'm not interested in going to the 9-world sky to tell the 7 realm lords. They won't be able to give me any benefits. The Void Dragon said firmly. Then, the Void Dragon took away 3000 rank 12 dragon immortal grasses. Satisfied, Yi Qinghan left the room and continued to search for treasures. There were treasures everywhere. Even Yi Qinghan became greedy and wanted to take everything away. With these treasures, it would be enough for the great wasteland domain to rise again. Unfortunately, the Sea Dragon race wouldn't give up their foundation for the legend of the vast ocean devouring the heavens. The underground palace was at least a dozen li in radius. There were countless treasures hidden underground. Yi Qinghan searched for half a night before he finally reached the deepest part of the palace. There were a few rooms in the deepest part of the palace that had their stone doors closed. Yi Qinghan looked curiously at the Void Dragon and said, Senior, since we're going to make a deal, you can't just give me some worthless things in exchange for the 3 chapters. The Baze Saint clan's secret technique, the Fortune chapter, is the only secret technique that can allow one to surpass heavenly beasts. Can't you show some sincerity? The Void Dragon glared angrily at Yi Qinghan. He felt humiliated and said, What do you mean they're all worthless things? Those are the treasures that have been passed down to this day. How can worthless things enter my dragon race's underground palace? Chapter 1443. Void Dragon angrily glared at Yi Qinghan. He was angry, but he didn't dare to vent his anger. So many treasures had been taken away, and after seeing these rooms, Yi Qinghan immediately turned hostile. Was there anyone more shameless than him? Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly. He winked and said in a tempting tone, Don't be so stingy. When the time comes, I can give you a copy of my cultivation experience. It will help you avoid many detours. Let me tell you the truth. Back then, I relied on this law chapter to reach the World Lord realm. During the chaotic war of the 9 realms, you should know what I relied on to defeat 7 of them. Wasn't it just the law chapter? You lost. Void Dragon poked Yi Qinghan's wound and said. Yi Qinghan angrily said, Fuck, it wasn't just the 7 of them. There was also a group of ants around. I fought against 7 of them for dozens of years before I was defeated. I was suppressed by 7 world overlords, but I was still able to escape and reincarnate. Wasn't it all because of the law chapter? Who dares to say that the law chapter isn't strong? I will kill him. Yes, yes, yes. You are indeed very strong. If I didn't really want the law chapter, do you think I would bring you to the Sea Dragon clan's treasury? So far, you are the only human to have entered this place. Aside from the Sea Dragon Patriarch and the Elders, even the strongest of the younger generation cannot enter this place. The Void Dragon explained in a deep voice. That's why. Since you have acknowledged the law chapter, if you want to obtain it, you have to take out something truly good. This is a priceless treasure. In addition to the cultivation insights of a realm overlord, you have missed out on this opportunity. There won't be a second realm overlord who will be willing to use this to trade with you. Yi Qinghan advised. However, what he said was the truth. He really wanted to take revenge. He really wanted to recover to the realm lord level as soon as possible. Otherwise, he wouldn't be bothered to say such useless things to the Void Azure Dragon. Void Dragon swallowed his saliva. He was already drooling over the law chapter. Countless years ago, he had heard about the 4 great chapters of the Bay Saint clan's legend of the vast ocean devouring the heavens. Unfortunately, it had never appeared in the world. Now that it had appeared, how could he not buy it? The Azure Void Dragon's face twisted as he struggled internally. If it weren't for Yi Qinghan's soul being too strong and he was worried that Yi Qinghan would self-destruct, then he would have already snatched it away. Why would he trade for it with a treasure? You can only choose one material from the 4 rooms. Furthermore, you can't choose any more materials. You can only choose this much, the Void Dragon suggested in a deep voice. This. Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment. Seeing how much the Azure Void Dragon valued these 4 rooms, he guessed that the treasures in these rooms must be very important. Of course, he did not want to miss it. He negotiated, I will choose one material from these 4 rooms. Allow me to choose 3 more. No. Pick out 2 more items. Don't be so stingy. You've hidden them in the treasury for nothing, but if you give them to me, they'll be of great use, Yi Qinghan said angrily. At most, I'll pick another one for you. The Azure Void Dragon would not back down. This time, he had cut off too much meat because these 4 rooms contained the sea race's lifetime's worth of blood, sweat, and tears. The materials for the 4 realm artifacts could not be forged yet, so they had always been hidden here. Alright, one then. Yi Qinghan was very straightforward. The smile on his face was very obvious. The stone door was still covered by countless runes. The dragon's might was very dense. No one could even think of forcing their way in. The Azure Void Dragon mobilized the dragon god's power, and the stone door quickly moved upwards. The first room was opened, and there was a pitch-black meteorite inside. It was not big, but it was very heavy. Its density was probably the largest rock Yi Qinghan had ever seen. Yi Qinghan crossed his legs and reached out to grab the meteorite. The rocks under his feet cracked and his veins popped out. His blood vessels were gushing, but he still could not move the meteorite. He was completely unable to measure how heavy and dense the meteorite was. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He muttered, it's a natural realm artifact. If a realm master uses it to smash people, it will definitely smash a few powerful stars. The meteorite was very smooth, as if it had been polished. It was very easy to forge a realm artifact with this meteorite. All one needed to do was drill 5 holes in the meteorite so that one could insert one's finger. However, drilling holes in this round meteorite was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Unless a realm master personally came, he would have to waste a lot of time and energy to forge it. The Azure Void Dragon sneered and thought, since you can't move it, then don't blame me. This meteorite was moved into the treasury by the combined efforts of the 10 strongest experts of the sea dragon race. After trying for a long time, Yi Qinghan was gasping for breath. He had no choice but to give up. Forget it. Let's change rooms. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. The Azure Void Dragon pretended to be regretful and said, "It's all right. There are still 3 rooms. There are bound to be things that you can move." The density of a realm artifact's material was very high. It completely relied on its weight to destroy everything. Take the Great Wastelands Monument for example. Other than Yi Qinghan himself, not many people could move it, let alone use it. Therefore, the Azure Void Dragon believed that Yi Qinghan would not be able to move any of the treasures in the 4 rooms. It seems that I have overestimated a realm master's soul. His physical body is really a mess. The Azure Void Dragon laughed sinisterly. After that, the Azure Void Dragon brought Yi Qinghan to the second room. When the door opened, a stone sword appeared. It was about 20 centimeters wide and 2 meters long. The sword's hilt was about as thick as an adult's wrist. It did not look like a human's weapon at all. The stone sword emitted an ice-cold sword aura. Its might was monstrous. It was a formed realm artifact and not a realm artifact's material. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He could not recall whose weapon this was. After all, since the beginning of the world, other than the 4 great heavenly beasts, there were only 7 realm masters. Then, who was the owner of this stone sword? This stone sword. Where did you get it? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. This stone sword was not born naturally. It was not like the meteorite. This stone sword was man-made. We found it in the void ocean. Originally, there was a powerful pressure that prevented others from approaching it. However, it drifted all the way to the central continent of the sea race. It seemed that the artifact spirit had given up on resisting. However, our race could not use it. It was too heavy. In the end, we put it in the treasury, the Azure Void Dragon said with certainty. Yi Qinghan was rather curious. He went forward and carefully observed the stone sword. He realized that he had never seen the runic laws on it before. The profound meaning on it was even more difficult to understand. The pattern was also very strange. He could not help but place both his hands on the sword's hilt. He could only imagine that the person who used this stone sword was at least twice his size. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He and the sword became one. The realm master's soul rushed out of his body. It was like a heavenly beast had appeared. The body of the war god erupted. He exerted force with both hands, wanting to take the stone sword away. However, the stone sword suddenly exploded. A destructive power erupted from within and fiercely collided with Yi Qinghan. Hua! The feather spirit robe completely erupted. A 7-colored divine light covered Yi Qinghan and formed a small boundary that firmly wrapped around him. Boom! 2 powers that surpassed the pseudo-realm masters clashed. Qi soared into the sky. The entire underground palace was shaking. Chapter 1444. Bang! Yi Qinghan was sent flying by the explosive power of the stone sword. He slammed into the Azure Void Dragon behind him. Boom! The 2 of them slammed into each other and were sent flying out of the room by the shockwave. Then, they slammed into the stone wall. The runes on the stone wall exploded, sending the 2 of them flying back. Boom boom. Bang! Ouch, pooh, the 2 of them screamed and spat out blood. They rolled on the ground at least 10 times. Their faces were covered in dirt and they were in a sorry state. Yi Qinghan was the first to bear the brunt of the impact. If not for the feather spirit robe, the stone sword's explosive power would have killed him. His organs were about to shatter and the blood in his body almost flowed in reverse. He was bleeding from all his orifices and he was weak. Azure Void Dragon was in an even worse state. He did not have the feather spirit robe to protect him. He was caught off guard and several of his dragon scales were shattered. He almost fainted. Cough cough, fuck, didn't you say that the artifact spirit did not resist? Yi Qinghan said angrily. Pooh! Yi Qinghan was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. The stone sword shone brightly and swallowed the blood, forming a huge whirlpool that crazily swallowed the primal power. The blood kept flowing along the lines of the stone sword. The primal power had awakened the stone sword's artifact spirit. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would not have been beaten so badly. It was the first time in many years that he had suffered such a great loss. He had even lost to the artifact spirit. This must be because the stone door was opened and the stone sword was activated by the primal power. Azure Void Dragon crawled up from the ground in a sorry state. He had an ugly expression. Yi Qinghan grimaced. His entire body was in pain as if he had been torn apart. What is the origin of this damn stone sword? I don't believe that such a powerful artifact could be born in this world. Yi Qinghan twisted his body and approached the stone sword. He realized that his blood had already dyed the stone sword red. The lines on it were abnormally clear and it emitted a sharp sword aura. Whine. The stone sword was trembling as if it was about to fly into the sky. The surrounding air was moving along with it. Boom! Boom! Following that, Yi Qinghan's qi and blood began to churn. It seemed to move along with the stone sword, roaring in an orderly manner. His qi and blood seemed to burning his skin. His entire body was in pain, as if thousands of ants were gnawing at his heart, bones, and flesh. Ah, that Yi Qinghan screamed. He curled up and roared, "Get rid of the blood I left on the stone sword. Otherwise, I'll blow myself up for you to see." The Void Azure Dragon was alarmed. When it saw Yi Qinghan's ferocious face change shape, it hurriedly summoned some seawater to charge at the stone sword. However, before the seawater could touch the stone sword emitted a force that formed a barrier. Sword chi rampaged within the barrier as it followed the seawater towards the Void Azure Dragon. Bang! Boom! The empty dragon did not even have the strength to fight back. It was sent flying by the sword chi. It slammed into the stone wall and was bounced back by the rune law. Yi Qinghan collapsed to the ground, his body convulsing. The stone sword could actually use the blood essence on the stone sword to control the blood essence in his body. It was unheard of. Calm down. I need to calm down. Although Yi Qinghan's physical body was in unbearable pain, his soul was still an invincible sector lord. At this moment, he immediately stabilized his state of mind. He formed a seal with his palms and drew an 8 trigrams imprint. He stuck it to his chest and both sides shot out a beam of light. The laws of heaven and earth, with the 8 trigrams as the guide, prevent all things from corroding. Protect my golden body, protect my soul. Yi Qinghan quickly muttered. The 8 trigrams imprint around him spun rapidly, forming a 8 trigrams chain that enveloped him. However, the stone sword did not resist at all. It could still control the burning of blood essence and frantically reorganized the order in his body. Pooh! Fuck, the stone sword is from the inner realm. Damn it, there is a 9th sector lord in the inner realm. Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His soul was almost sucked dry. The stone sword was too powerful. It was so powerful that it could destroy everything. Most importantly, the treasure in the underground palace was providing it with boundless energy. Even Yi Qinghan could not outlast it. Hua! Yi Qinghan's body began to burn. The more than 10 godhoods in his body were burned into nothingness. The various types of divine power in his body filled his limbs and bones. It could cause Yi Qinghan to self-destruct at any time. Yi Qinghan did not want to die, nor did he want to self-destruct. The Yuling robe was still on him and not on his avatar. Emperor Yi was also here. If he self-destructed here, everyone nearby would be finished. Humph. Yi Qinghan quickly mobilized the divine power in his body and fused all the different types of power together. Although they were incompatible, with Yi Qinghan's powerful soul, he could fuse these low-level divine powers together. Soon, all the energy was assimilated by the Great Desolation divine power and turned into the Great Desolation force. When Yi Qinghan finished sorting out the messy energy in his body, he suddenly realized that the stone sword wasn't destroying his body. Instead, it was evolving his body. Every cell in his body had become endlessly powerful. Oh! Yi Qinghan frowned. Using his divine sense, he sensed the changes in his bloodline and body. He discovered that his blood cells were completely different from before. They were much larger, and he was about 10 centimeters taller. Even more terrifying was that his arms had become thicker and more powerful. If he had been delicate before, he was now muscular and muscular. The stone sword is transforming my bloodline. It's taking the essence and discarding the impurities. It's transforming my body into that of a giant blood tribe member. Yi Qinghan murmured. Using his divine sense, he carefully examined his body. He discovered that all the advantages of the Great Desolation divine power had been preserved. However, he had gained some special abilities. For example, his body had grown larger, and his blood cells had grown larger. He was at least 3 times stronger than before. Before, he had been a freak of physical strength, but now he was ridiculously strong. In addition, his cultivation level had been pushed to the peak of the paramount god level, and he could step into the pseudo-world lord level at any time. Boom! Yi Qinghan slowly stood up, his bones cracking. His bones were several times stronger than before, and he felt as though he could break an over-god weapon with a single kick. Ka ka ka! Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and stared at the stone sword in front of him. He discovered that his spirit was one with it, but he could only sense the name, Giant Blood Tribe. Everything else was blurry, and he couldn't sense much at all. Perhaps the spirit of the stone sword had been asleep for too long, and there were many memories that couldn't be recalled in a short period of time. Boom! Roar! Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed the hilt of the stone sword. The stone sword let out a long hum, as though it was cheering and excited. Void Dragon looked at Yi Qinghan, whose aura had become even more tyrannical and violent. His eyes were filled with shock. With a world weapon in hand, Yi Qinghan was like a peerless war god. If his cultivation level was higher, he probably wouldn't even have the thought to resist. His aura was too strong, too tyrannical, too violent. His black hair fluttered without any wind. The feather spirit robe had fully awakened. Combined with the soul of a world lord and the tyrannical sword energy of the stone sword, if Yi Qinghan advanced another major realm, he would definitely be able to fight against those injured world lords. Chapter 1445. Yi Qinghan was in a daze. He did not expect to subdue the stone sword, nor did he expect the stone sword to be so powerful. Giant blood race, Yi Qinghan frowned. He did not expect there to be such a race in the 9 worlds. Moreover, the owner of the stone sword was obviously a realm lord. Otherwise, it would be impossible to create such a powerful stone sword. Where did the owner of the stone sword go? Why haven't I found the giant blood race in the 9 worlds? Yi Qinghan was very curious, but the stone sword did not reply. The stone sword did not reply. Yi Qinghan turned to Void Dragon and asked, "Do you know about the giant blood race in the 9 worlds?" Void Dragon's face was pale. He had been severely injured after being struck twice. If it were not for his dragon body and the fact that his physical body was extremely powerful, he would have died long ago. Yi Qinghan had also taken away the stone sword, a realm artifact. Void Dragon's face turned even uglier. When he heard Yi Qinghan's question, he grinned and said in a muffled voice, "I don't know. I have never heard of it before." Ka ka ka. After Yi Qinghan heard this, he was no longer in a hurry to find the giant blood race. He twisted his body and changed back to his original form. The body of the giant blood race was too big. He was not used to it. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and stored the stone sword into his body. His face was filled with excitement as he grinned in satisfaction. "Thank you, Senior Dragon King, for bestowing me with this stone sword. I'll be taking this stone sword, but I won't be looking at the other two rooms." Humph. Void Dragon did not look good. He snorted in his heart. The stone sword had already recognized him as its owner. It was too late to regret. He could only admit defeat. He had used a powerful boundary weapon to exchange for the 3 chapters of the legend of the vast sea devouring heaven. He had also paid so many materials. It was a loss. "Senior, don't be angry. You can't use the stone sword even if I give it to you. Why don't you give it to me? You can even owe me a favor, right?" Yi Qinghan was full of smiles. "You can only choose one more item," the Void Dragon reminded in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "No problem, I have an answer. Just give me 2 saturated Supreme Grade Origin Holy Stones to save my life at a critical moment." "Alright, deal. Since you've already obtained the stone sword, you should be able to save your life. Why don't you give the rule book to me first?" Yi Qinghan shrugged and said honestly, "Apologies, I want to give it to you too, but with my cultivation, I can't write it. Wait till I break through to pseudo-sector lord level, with the stone sword support, it shouldn't be a problem." The Void Dragon stared angrily at Yi Qinghan. He felt that Yi Qinghan had been deceiving him all this time. He actually gave him a secret technique that he couldn't write in exchange for so many treasures. Yi Qinghan had an evil smile on his face. Seeing the angry Void Dragon, he quickly explained, "Because of the stone sword's impact, my realm rose to peak Supreme God level. As long as I have enough resources, I will definitely become a pseudo-sector lord within a year and stabilize my realm within 3 years. During this time, I will stay in the oceanic race continent. You can rest assured now, right?" "That's more like it." The Void Dragon's expression finally relaxed. At this moment, he just wanted to complete the deal with Yi Qinghan quickly and chase him out of the oceanic dragon race's territory. "Senior, I have another deal that you might be interested in." Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and said evilly. Seeing Yi Qinghan's evil expression, the Void Dragon didn't think that he was a good person. He immediately asked, "What proposal?" "I can help you forge a world artifact, but you have to give me the meteorite in front," Yi Qinghan said with a smile. "Dream on. You are really greedy." The Void Dragon didn't hesitate to reject Yi Qinghan's proposal. "Haha, think about it. Boundary artifacts aren't forged by sector lords. They are specially forged by sector lord level master blacksmiths. They are also natural boundary artifacts, like my Great Wasteland Steel. If you want to become a powerful heavenly beast, then even if you break through to heavenly beast level, without a boundary artifact, you still won't be a match for a veteran sector lord. You might be able to find the materials for a boundary artifact, but you won't be able to find a natural boundary artifact." Yi Qinghan laughed and reminded him. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left. The Void Dragon's old face was bright red. Of course, he wanted a boundary artifact because he wanted to break through to heavenly beast level. However, he also understood what Yi Qinghan said. Without a boundary artifact, how could he be considered a heavenly beast? Hua! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and flames formed a robe. The flames were extremely hot and burned the void. Even the Void Dragon could feel the scorching temperature. "When I recover to pseudo full circle realm, my flames will be enough to burn the materials for a boundary artifact." If you want to forge a boundary artifact, you will need to waste a few decades. Now, other than me, the 7 sector lords can't forge a boundary artifact. As for you, you can't possibly ask the 4 great heavenly beasts to forge a boundary artifact for you, right? Hahaha, you and I are not in the same area and are not competitors. However, you and the 4 great heavenly beasts are different. When you become a heavenly beast, you will definitely seize a portion of the sea. They will only suppress you and even hunt you down. They won't help you. Yi Qinghan reminded him indifferently. The corner of the void dragon's mouth twitched. He wasn't afraid at all. However, after being tricked by Yi Qinghan, it seemed like he had to cooperate with him. If we cooperate, it will be a win-win situation. If we don't cooperate, it doesn't matter to me. I have the Great Wastelands Monument, the Feather Spirit Robe, and this stone sword. Even if I can't kill the 7 sector lords, they won't be able to kill me. What about you? Can you escape the pursuit of the 4 great heavenly beasts? Yi Qinghan sneered. Don't scare me. How can the supreme heavenly beasts pursue me? The void dragon asked angrily. Then let me ask you. If an existence that can threaten the rule of the sea dragon tribe suddenly appeared in the sea dragon weave, but you can still kill it, will you kill it? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Yes. I probably will. The void dragon muttered. Yi Qinghan snorted disdainfully and said, it's not that you probably will. You definitely will. Since you will kill it, why won't the 4 great heavenly beasts kill you? Do you look good? Yi Qinghan's threats and temptations made the void dragon break out in cold sweat. He was no longer confident. Following that, Yi Qinghan lowered his voice and said, as long as you are willing to cooperate with me, I will help you when the 4 great heavenly beasts pursue you. If you don't believe me, we can sign an oath. If I can block the 7 sector lords' attack, I can help you block the 4 great heavenly beasts' pursuit. With me around, the 4 great heavenly beasts will definitely compromise. The void dragon felt guilty. He had been tempted by Yi Qinghan. He hadn't even obtained the law chapter, but he was already thinking about becoming a heavenly beast. Senior, I'm sincerely trying to help you. With my cultivation experience and your resources, it will be difficult for you not to become a heavenly beast. Yi Qinghan advised seriously. Chapter 1446. Yi Qinghan's lies, threats, and temptations had caused the void dragon to be moved. Let me think about it. The void dragon thought about it and had some doubts. It didn't want to cooperate with Yi Qinghan because Yi Qinghan had too many enemies. Even if the realm lords of the 7 realms were injured, who knew if they had recovered? It's okay. Think about it slowly. I still want to stay for a few more years. When you see the hope of becoming a heavenly beast, give me an answer. At that time, I might not only want meteorites. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said. The void dragon snorted and brought Yi Qinghan out of the underground palace. It arranged a separate courtyard for Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi and transferred a large amount of level 11 divine medicine resources. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi set up a large array outside the courtyard and then went into seclusion. They both wanted to break through to the pseudo-realm lord realm. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had messed up the 7 realms while he ran to the void ocean. He didn't know that the 7 realms were in chaos. With the divine bird, all the realms couldn't differentiate between friend and foe. Without Yi Qinghan's suppression, this fellow was simply going to soar into the sky. The divine bird was treacherous and cunning. After discussing with Zhu Wuxin and Ji Gu, it insisted on taking control of the left Martial Residence's army. At first, Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin were still doubtful. However, after a few attacks, it actually killed hundreds of thousands of enemies. What was more terrifying was that it actually messed up the situation of the 7 realms, causing chaos in the 7 realms. Only then did it take control of the left Martial Residence's army, a total of 3 million soldiers. In the name of taking revenge for the left martial residence, the divine bird adjusted the morale of the left martial residence's army to the strongest state. They would definitely win in battle and win beautifully. The divine bird's strategy was strange and its attacks were without any order. It could be described as despicable, to describe its method of leading the army. The army rarely died, but it constantly performed miraculous feats. It won the hearts of the army. In the left martial residence's army tent, the divine bird was extremely wretched. Caw, 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 this is my main battlefield. I, the divine bird, will be the next military saint, the invincible general. The divine bird lay on the commander's seat with a look of enjoyment on its face. It had long forgotten about Yi Qinghan. Master, don't come back. Let this divine bird rule the world alone. At this moment, the divine bird was no longer dispirited. It was energetic in everything it did. It wished that it could fight every day. It was an absolute war maniac. Even Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin felt cold sweat. If this kind of trash stayed in the army, it would either lead the army to conquer the Seven Realms or drag the Snow Realm army into an irrecoverable situation. Reporting. The Six Beast Worlds and the Formless World clashed at the border of the Ultimate Martial World and both sides suffered losses. Reporting. The True Martial World's Shaolin led an army of 3 million to attack the Ultimate Martial World's Imperial Court. He said that he wanted to avenge the people of Shaolin City and wipe out their hatred by slaughtering the Ultimate Martial World's Imperial Court. The spies came to report one by one. Everything in the Ultimate Martial World was actually in the palm of its hand. The Divine Bird's information system seemed to be even stronger than the Snow Realm army. The Divine Bird was a true Divine Bird. It was proficient in the language of all kinds of birds. At this moment, the majority of the birds and beasts in the world had become its spies. As long as it was in the Ultimate Martial World, nothing could escape from its palm. Hundreds of thousands of captains and generals came in. They all looked at the Divine Bird excitedly. They knew that once it summoned them, there would definitely be a battle to fight. The Divine Bird sat on the commander's seat with a serious expression and pondered, how many prisoners of war are left in the Ultimate Martial World? Reporting. There are still 300,000 prisoners of war from the Ultimate Martial World left. They are ready to go at any time. A general stepped forward and said respectfully. It is time for them to serve their country. The Divine Bird suddenly stood up. It was majestic. It pointed at a young general in the tent and said, Luo Bufan, you have received this commander's teachings. This time, you will personally lead the prisoners of war to ambush Shaolinjun from the rear. Cooperate with the Ultimate Martial World's Imperial Court and eliminate the 3 million army. Ah! True Martial World Shaolinjun is an ally. Why are we attacking them? At this moment, there was an uproar in the tent. They didn't know what the Divine Bird was thinking. The Divine Bird rolled its eyes and said disdainfully, bullshit ally. Other than the Snow Realm army who is our ally, the rest are all enemies. Our left commander's mansion will eliminate all the enemies. Luo Bufan didn't have any doubts. This young captain was personally promoted by the Divine Bird. He listened to the Divine Bird's words. His style of doing things was exactly the same as the Divine Bird. He was extremely despicable. Luo Bufan, you know me. Lead the prisoners of war from the rear and beat Shaolinjun until he has no choice but to retreat. Once he retreats, you guys take the initiative to give way. Then, let General Nan Lufeng lead the prisoners of war from the Ultimate Martial World to block Shaolinjun's retreat path. Then, attack him head-on. Kill 30 to 50% of Shaolinjun's army and immediately escape. Only by expanding the flames of war between the two worlds will we have a chance to expand. The Divine Bird gave orders in an orderly manner. Yes. Lufeng accepts the order. Bufan accepts the order. The two generals quickly left the tent. They each led a group of prisoners of war and left the camp. At this moment, a black-clothed scout rushed in. He was sweating profusely as if there was some bad news. He entered the tent and saw so many generals. He was anxious and kept hinting to the divine bird. The divine bird waved its wings and said, "Generals, if you have nothing to do, go and play." This general will take his leave. The dozens of captains and generals all retreated. Only the black-clothed scout and the divine bird were left. What happened? Why are you so flustered? The divine bird raised its eyebrows and asked. General, I don't know why Lord Left Commander's cousin Yi Kun appeared again. He is rampaging in the ultimate martial world. I don't know what he is doing. He seems to be coming for our Left Commander's mansion army. The black-clothed scout quickly said. Shio. The divine bird jumped 3 feet high and directly stepped on the table. It said with an evil smile, Yi Kun, this divine bird has long wanted to kill you. You ungrateful bastard, you actually want to seize the military power of the Left Commander's mansion army. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Those who dare to make this divine bird an enemy never have a good ending. Yi Kun, when Yi Qinghan brought him here, he always said that he was his cousin. Many people knew his identity. This time, he actually escaped from the Great Wasteland domain and was looking for the Left Commander's mansion army. It was obvious that he wanted to rely on his relationship with Yi Qinghan to seize control of the Left Commander's mansion. However, Yi Kun seemed to have forgotten that the divine bird was still here. He was doomed to be unlucky. Gagaga, go and lead Yi Qinghan to the Left Commander's mansion army. I want to take care of this prodigal son. The divine bird was not surprised but happy. It was ready to clean up the mess for Yi Qinghan. The scout left. The divine bird stayed alone in the tent. Its eyes flashed coldly and it sneered, Master didn't kill you because of old ties. This general is not a good bird. Today, I will clean up the mess for him and let this Yi Kun die quietly. Chapter 1447. Yi Kun was moving quickly towards the Left Marshal's Residence's army. He wanted to use Yi Qinghan's power to gain control of the Left Marshal's Residence's army, but he didn't know that the divine bird had already taken control of it. The spy led Yi Kun to the Left Marshal's Residence's camp, which was more than 300 miles away from Yili City. The divine bird sat in the military tent and listened to the spy's report. It was very comfortable. Where is that little bastard Yi Kun? The divine bird asked lazily. Commander, Yi Kun is less than 3,000 miles away. He should be here soon, a spy quickly replied. When he arrives, I'll show him who's boss first. I'll teach him how to behave and keep a low profile. This is my territory, the divine bird said proudly. All right, as you wish, Marshal. The spy quickly left. Yi Kun was quietly approaching the Left Marshal's Residence's camp. He was getting more and more excited. Humph, when I gain control of the Left Marshal's Residence's army, I will prove that I can sweep across the 9 lands and become the most powerful person in the world with the help of resources. Yi Kun snorted coldly and said to himself. The Left Marshal's Residence's camp had 3 million soldiers and close to 1 million prisoners of war. They formed an 800-mile alliance. Usually, the divine bird didn't provoke other realms and the other realms wouldn't provoke them. However, the divine bird was a troublemaker. It would fight every 2 to 3 days and every time it would be a surprise attack. It was invincible. Yi Kun appeared in front of the camp's entrance. However, before he could speak, dozens of captains rushed out of the camp. They didn't even give him a chance to speak. They directly attacked him and beat him up. Boom! Bang! Yi Kun was kicked away. His defensive armor was shattered. His internal organs were almost displaced. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen. His legs were almost broken. I am the Left Marshal's cousin. Ah, you are courting death. How dare you pretend to be the Left Marshal's cousin? The entire left marshal's residence has been sacrificed. How dare you cause trouble? Brothers, kill this spy. Boom boom boom. Bang bang bang. Punches fell like raindrops. Yi Kun was beaten until he was rolling on the ground. He didn't care about his reputation at all. He only wanted to escape from the encirclement of the captains. He didn't want to escape because he wanted to gain control of the left marshal's residence. He didn't know why dozens of captains were ganging up on him. The divine bird stood arrogantly on the shoulder of a soldier outside the tent with a sinister smile on its face. Yi Kun watched as the captains beat him up for more than an hour. Just as Yi Kun was about to turn around and flee, the divine bird rushed out. Stop! Everyone, stop! This is my master's little cousin. The divine bird pretended to be angry and scolded. It was only then that the 20 to 30 captains came to a sudden realization, and they immediately stopped beating Yi Kun up. Then, they looked at Yi Kun, who had lost his human form, and apologized profusely. Get lost! How dare you beat up my master's cousin? How dare you? The divine bird said angrily. Yi Kun had a ferocious look on his face. If he still couldn't tell what was going on, he would be an idiot. Seeing the group of captains retreat, Yi Kun glared at the divine bird and roared, "You despicable bird, how dare you trick me? Motherfucker, I was helping you, and you scolded me. If I had known this would happen, I would have let them fuck me." The divine bird was so embarrassed that it flew into a rage. Hiss hiss hiss. The corner of Yi Kun's mouth was broken, and it hurt to even speak. He sucked in a breath of cold air, and hated the divine bird to the core. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. Before my brother died, he asked me to take over the left marshal's residence's army. As my brother's spiritual pet, you should help me. Yi Kun said angrily. The divine bird curled its lips and said disdainfully, "Bullshit, I was the last to see my master. Why didn't he ask you to take over the left marshal's residence's army? What does a filthy animal like you know? He and I are brothers, and he must have told me something beforehand. What's the use of telling you? I want to gather all the captains in the army and explain the situation." Yi Kun said coldly. "You filthy animal, how dare you scold me? Don't think that everyone in the world is your brother. If you piss me off, I'll get someone to hack you to death." The divine bird flapped its wings, and the army rushed up from behind. It was so powerful that Yi Kun had no choice but to retreat. The corner of Yi Kun's mouth twitched. His cultivation wasn't weak, or else he wouldn't have been able to withstand the attacks of more than 30 captains. However, he wasn't Yi Qinghan, who could come and go as he pleased. Once surrounded by the army, even 10 of him would die. You're rebelling against your master. I don't believe that all the troops in the left marshal's residence will listen to you. Yi Kun gritted his teeth and said. Fine, fine, fine. I'll make you convinced and give you a chance. The divine bird flashed and flapped its wings. It said loudly, other than the generals who are going to battle, the rest of the left marshal's army are to gather in my tent. No one is allowed to be absent. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 3 million left marshal's army quickly gathered in the commander's tent. Yi Kun's lips curled into a cold smile as he followed her in. The army gathered. The divine bird and Yi Kun walked to a high place outside the tent and looked down at the left marshal's army that was full of fighting spirit. Let me introduce everyone. This is the left marshal's cousin. He said that the left marshal had entrusted everyone to him before he died, but I can't push you into a fire pit. I doubt his ability to lead the army. Therefore, I'll make a bet with him. If he can beat me, I'll give him the position of marshal. If he loses, I'll pretend that the left marshal's command is fake. What do you think? The divine bird said to the army. Yi Kun's face turned serious when he heard this. He pretended to be dignified and said, My brother died for everyone. I'll lead my brothers to avenge him. Don't you want revenge? Of course we want revenge. 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 The 3 million left commander's army moved in unison, wave after wave, straight to the clouds. The divine bird looked at Yi Kuen's arrogance and sneered. If it weren't for the fact that I can't explain it to my master, do you think I'd give you a chance to speak? I'd have killed you a long time ago. But now, I'll make you regret coming to this battlefield. You won't even know how you died. Cut the crap. If you want to avenge the left marshal, you have to be qualified. You have to be able to lead the army and fight. Otherwise, why would I entrust the lives of my brothers to a good-for-nothing? The divine bird provoked. Yi Kuen looked at the divine bird with disdain. He was confident that he wouldn't lose to a bird. How do we compete? Let's draw a line. If I lose, I'll leave. If I win, the left marshal's army will be returned to me. I'll lead my brothers to avenge the left marshal. Yi Kuen said arrogantly. Okay. You said it yourself. We'll each lead a troop of prisoners of war. 10,000 people. We'll find 2 missions of equal difficulty. The winner will be king and the loser will be a slave. Is that okay? The divine bird stared at Yi Kuen and asked coldly. I'll complete the mission beautifully. Moreover, none of the prisoners of war will die, Yi Kuen said confidently. I can make a military pledge. The left marshal's army can bear witness. The divine bird shook its head generously. It flapped its wings and said generously, there's no need for a military pledge. You're my master's brother. Even if you can't complete the mission, I can't punish you. After all, you have good intentions. The divine bird spoke in a dignified manner, but it thought, a military pledge. We'll talk about it when you come back alive. Assign the mission. Yi Kuen said impatiently. Chapter 1448. Good. The first mission is to stop Shaolinjun. There are already 2 obstructions in front, the third one is not difficult. The divine bird pointed at the map and confirmed a point, Extreme Immortal Ridge. It also marked the 2 obstructions in front. This mission was indeed simple. The second mission is to go to the northeast border of the ultimate martial world and make the Formless World and 6-Beast World fight. The divine bird pointed to the northeast. It marked the marks and numbers of the 2 armies. This mission was very dangerous. If they failed, they would definitely be surrounded by the 2 armies and die without a doubt. Yi Kuen was not stupid. The first 2 obstructions could already take away half of Shaolinjun's life. If he came again, it was very likely that he would kill Shaolinjun. This was an additional military project. Therefore, he did not hesitate to stop Shaolinjun. The divine bird laughed in disdain and thought, today, I will send you to the Western Paradise, so that you won't bother this divine bird and master again. Yi Kuen led his army, but the divine bird sent someone to rush over. It ordered Nan Lufeng to withdraw the army and stop blocking Shaolinjun. It was to listen to orders and support Yi Kuen at any time. The divine bird was incomparably treacherous. If it let the angry Shaolinjun attack Yi Kuen's 10,000 captive army, it would probably crush their bones. Half a day ago, Shaolinjun had already arrived at the imperial city of the ultimate martial world and encountered a fierce resistance. After fighting for several hours, he had lost more than 100,000 soldiers and was extremely exhausted. However, he did not manage to break through the imperial city. However, the army within the imperial city was also on the verge of death. And at this time, Luo Bufan led the 300,000 captives of the ultimate martial world to attack from the rear. Shaolinjun was in a state of panic. He thought that a large number of reinforcements had arrived from the ultimate martial world and hurriedly mobilized half of the army to attack. The imperial city also thought that a large number of reinforcements had arrived. They directly opened the city gates and fought to the death, causing Xiao Linjun to suffer heavy losses. Xiao Lin personally led the army to escape. The 3 million strong army had come and fled in a sorry state. Only 2 million managed to escape. The rest were either captured or killed. Under Xiao Lin's lead, the 2 million strong army charged madly towards the extreme Dao mountain range. Along the way, they killed everything they saw and fled. Behind them, Luo Bufan and the imperial army were desperately chasing after them. The remnants of the army were slaughtered and had no choice but to flee in different directions in batches. Half a day later, Xiao Lin only led a hardcore army of about 100,000 people towards the extreme celestial ridge. Once they crossed the extreme celestial ridge, they would reach the extreme celestial mountain range. Once they crossed the extreme celestial mountain range, they would enter their own headquarters. At this moment, Yi Kun was leading 10,000 prisoners of war to ambush Xiao Linjun at the exit of extreme celestial ridge. The spies and vanguards were arranged in a decent manner. They were well equipped with crossbows, arrows, and long spears. They had everything they needed. Reporting, Xiao Lin's army only has 100,000 disabled soldiers. Xiao Lin is personally leading them, and most of them are injured. Most of their equipment is lost, and they have already entered extreme celestial ridge. Yi Kun became excited when he heard the report from the scout in the front. He laughed loudly and said, "Ha ha ha, it is time for us to make contributions. As long as you help me cripple this defeated army, you will become my loyal army. Your equipment will be even better than the Snow Realm army. I won't mistreat you." "Yes, sir." The prisoners of war didn't have any luxuries. They only wanted to follow the right person, follow the commander, and make great contributions. In the future, if the commander took pity on them, they might have a better life. At least they wouldn't have to be cannon fodder. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The crossbows were all aimed at the exit of extreme celestial ridge. The 10,000 soldiers hid in the bushes and waited quietly. At this moment, Xiao Lin was in a hurry. He didn't have the time to arrange spies to scout the road ahead. Even in a dangerous place like extreme celestial ridge, he didn't slow down. Instead, he sped up a lot. This was because once the enemy caught up, their army of 100,000 wouldn't be enough to kill them all. The army of 100,000 madly rushed towards the exit of extreme celestial ridge. They didn't care about the people hiding on both sides of the valley. However, when they were a few hundred meters away from the exit, tens of thousands of arrows were fired. The arrows roared and swarmed towards the army in front of them. A portion of the crossbows were all aimed at Xiao Lin. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Puchi. Ah. Enemy attack. Careful. Formation. Defend the top. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Boom. For a moment, the exit of extreme celestial ridge was in chaos. Xiao Lin panicked. At first, he thought that they had encountered a large enemy army and had fallen into a trap. However, it didn't take long for him to realize that the arrows were only a small group of 10,000 people. He looked up and was instantly enraged. "Bastards, how dare you ambush me with such a small group of people?" Xiao Lin was furious. His supreme godly power poured out. His aura soared into the sky and swept through half of extreme celestial ridge. A sword aura destroyed everything in its path. It sliced through several mountains and killed many prisoners of war. "Kill them." Boom. The army of 100,000 charged forward like a swarm of bees. They didn't care about exchanging lives for lives. Xiao Lin's army suffered at least a few hundred casualties from the ambush. More than 1,000 were heavily injured, and close to 10,000 were lightly injured. At this moment, he was burning with anger. Without any explanation, he surrounded Yi Kun's prisoners of war like a madman. No matter how Yi Kun looked at it, this army didn't look like an army that had been ambushed twice. It looked more like an army that had traveled a long distance and was full of anger. "Follow me." They're at the end of their rope. Boom! The 10,000 prisoners of war were fully prepared. They attacked Shaolin's army head-on. One side had a strong purpose, while the other side had a terrifying anger. When the two sides clashed, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Extreme celestial ridge was almost razed to the ground. Shaolin's army suffered heavy losses at the beginning. They lost at least 20,000 men before they gradually gained control of the situation. Yi Kun and Shaolin fought together. Yi Kun's talent was indeed terrifying. He was worthy of being Yi Qinghan's brother. After a few attacks, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Die for me! Yi Kun roared. He slashed his saber at Shaolin's divine sword. A shockwave spread out in all directions. Boom! Shaolin's expression changed slightly. He was actually forced back half a step. Shaolin was furious. He waved his hand and mobilized 30,000 soldiers to surround Yi Kun. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The military flags swayed in an orderly manner. It was obvious that they were setting up a formation. They cooperated with Shaolin in battle. Whoosh! The 30,000 Shaolin soldiers quickly supported Shaolin in battle. In the blink of an eye, they gained control of the situation. The remaining 50 to 60,000 Shaolin soldiers quickly harvested Yi Kun's prisoners of war. They surrounded Yi Kun at the outermost edge. Yi Kun was doomed this time. Yi Kun's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly broke out of the encirclement, wanting to escape. However, how could Shaolin let him escape? He beat him back into the encirclement several times. Scram! Yi Kun charged forward, wanting to break out of the encirclement and escape the battlefield. However, he was getting more and more desperate. Boom! Yi Kun was sent flying by Shaolin's sword. The divine sword pierced through his left shoulder and blood splattered across the sky. Die for me! Shaolin vented his anger on Yi Kun. He swung his sword thousands of times in an instant, wanting to skin Yi Kun alive. Yi Kun was shocked. He immediately wanted to betray the Great Wasteland Domain to save his life. He hurriedly shouted, "Don't kill me. I have important information about the Great Wasteland Domain." At this moment, Nan Lufeng rushed over with his army. He even shouted, "Future Commander, we're here to save you. Hold on a little longer." At this moment, Shaolin looked back and saw another army of a few 100,000. He didn't dare to tangle with Yi Kun anymore. In addition, the reinforcements said that Yi Kun was the future commander. His killing intent rose and he charged toward Yi Kun. Chapter 1449. Shaolin used the power of tens of thousands of soldiers to suppress Yi Kun. Yi Kun couldn't fight back and could only watch as Shaolin charged at him. He said frantically, "I have information about the Great Wasteland Domain." Shaolin hesitated for a moment, but Nan Lufeng was already behind them. "Young Marshal, trick him and stall for time. I'm coming to save you." Nan Lufeng roared. He was so fast that it didn't seem fake at all. Trick? Stall? Shaolin didn't want to hear any more information from Yi Kun. It must be fake. He was trying to stall for time. Boom! Shaolin slashed with his sword and sent Yi Kun flying. The airwave swept up his divine body and sent him crashing into the hillside. Boom! Boom! Tens of thousands of spears were charging at Yi Kun. Yi Kun was knocked dizzy by Shaolin's attack. Then he was attacked by the army. Tens of thousands of spears pierced through the hillside and surrounded Yi Kun. He had nowhere to run. There was no way out. Poochie. Crack. Yi Kun's chest was pierced by 3 spears. His leg bone was also pierced by a spear. The sound of bones breaking was extremely ear-piercing. Ah! Yi Kun roared with a ferocious expression. He could only stay where he was. The probability of being hit by a spear was small. However, in order to kill Yi Kun quickly, Xiao Lin didn't care about the recoil. He swung his sword in reverse. It tore through time and space and reached Yi Kun's throat. Hum! A spear pierced through extreme celestial ridge and shot toward Xiao Lin from afar, hoping to stop Xiao Lin. However, Xiao Lin was too powerful. He twisted his body and slightly shifted the sword. The sword went through his chest and stabbed into Yi Kun's chest, while Yi Kun used the momentum to dodge the spear. Sword, come! Xiao Lin took the sword from Yi Kun's body and led the army out of extreme celestial ridge. At this moment, the divine bird came and roared with a sad face, "Young marshal, you died so miserably. How can I face your brother?" Whoosh! The Snow Realm army rushed toward extreme celestial ridge and missed Shaolinjun perfectly. Inside extreme celestial ridge, Yi Kun's chest was pierced by the sword. The damage caused was much greater than the spear. His leg bone was also pierced through. He was in a miserable state, already twisted beyond recognition. Yi Kun's eyes were filled with despair. His life force was rapidly disappearing, and his soul was gradually sinking into darkness. Death was only a matter of time. At this time, Nan Lufeng led the army to his side. Nan Liufeng's delicate face carried a trace of sadness that didn't seem to be an act. He tugged at Yi Kun's clothes and shouted, "Young marshal, you died so tragically. I will avenge you." Yi Kun didn't have much life left to begin with. After being shaken by Nan Lufeng, he spat out a mouthful of blood essence, and his life force became even weaker. "Young marshal, you can't die. Marshal will be here soon. He's a divine bird. He can definitely save you." Nan Lufeng growled. At the mention of the divine bird, Yi Kun's eyes lit up as if he was experiencing terminal lucidity. At that moment, he finally understood that he had been tricked by the divine bird. This was killing with a borrowed knife. Bastard bird. I'm going to kill it. Puff. Yi Kun struggled for a while, but he didn't stand up. The spear in his chest had already pierced through his body and stabbed into the rocks on the hillside. At this time, the divine bird led tens of thousands of Snow Realm army elites and rushed over with a sorrowful face. "Young marshal, why are you so stubborn? You're not suitable to be a commander. I handed over 3 million brothers to you. Isn't that the same as pushing them into a fire pit? Why didn't you listen to me? Now that you've made this situation, how can I face Master in 100 years?" The divine bird cried out as if it was heartbroken. Puff. Yi Kun looked at the divine bird with burning anger. He was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood essence. He struggled for a while, pointed at the divine bird and wanted to curse. However, his heart seemed to be blocked by something and he couldn't say a word. "Young master, what do you want to say? Do you have any last words for me?" The divine bird sadly approached Yi Kun. Its strange expression didn't seem to be sad at all. You did it on purpose." Yi Kun roared. "How is that possible? No. Young master, please don't misunderstand." The divine bird dragged out its words. It was obvious that it was trying to anger Yi Kun to death. "My brother won't let you off. He'll definitely kill you." "Aw." Yi Kun was so angry that he didn't know what to say. He could only roar at the sky. "Young marshal, don't be so agitated. If Master's spirit is in heaven, he will definitely seek revenge on that bastard Xiao Lin and kill him. Go in peace." The divine bird roared angrily. The Snow Realm army on both sides were very sorrowful. They didn't expect that Marshal's younger brother would also die in battle. Their sorrows were real because they didn't know that the divine bird was deliberately borrowing someone else's knife to kill. "Someone, make young Marshal Mu walk in a more handsome manner. Pull out all the spears from his body." Divine Bird wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and hid in a corner, crying bitterly as if it was real. When Nan Lu Feng heard this, he rushed forward and pulled out the long spear from Yi Kuen's body. The long spear was an inverted triangle. When he pulled it out, Yi Kuen's flesh was torn apart. Blood spurted out like a fountain. His vision turned black and he fainted from anger. Grand Marshal, young Marshal is dead. Ah! Let's go find that old bastard Shaolin and take revenge. Nan Lu Feng said inconsolably in a deep voice. No. Let young master rest in peace first. Set up a monument for him and bury him together with Marshal Zhua. They have been loyal and brave all their lives. When peace comes and the 9 realms return to one, we will move them back to the Snow Country and Divine Realm. The Divine Bird said sadly. Sigh, young Marshal Mu has been loyal and brave. Let him see the might of our Snow Realm army after he dies. Cremate him. The Divine Bird thought for a moment and sighed. Then, he used all of his divine power to mobilize the fire origin and spat out a mouthful of fire that directly covered Yi Kuen. Yi Kuen only fainted from anger, he didn't die. His qi and blood were still vigorous and could ignite at any moment. However, when the Divine Bird spat out a mouthful of fire, it directly burned him. The fire origin burned everything. Yi Kuen fell into the flames. Yi Kuen's soul that had fallen into darkness had already lost control of his body. At this moment, he suddenly felt pain all over his body. The most despairing thing was that his soul couldn't control his body. He could only feel pain, he couldn't shout or move. His soul was twisted as if it was being torn apart and ignited by the fire. Ah! That Yi Kuen's soul let out a sharp roar. It was ear-splitting and filled with resentment and despair. Yi Kuen never thought that he would die. Moreover, he would die in the hands of Yi Qinghan's spirit pet. He also never thought that he would be burned alive. Release your soul, young Marshal. Go and meet up with Master and conquer hell. May your spirits in heaven bless us. The Divine Bird looked up to the sky and sighed. May my master lead young Marshal Mu to Marshal Zhua's spirit. The army mourned in a low voice. Their voices echoed in the extreme celestial ridge. The grand funeral was carried out on the spot. Yi Kuen's corpse slowly disappeared. The evil qi had been burned away. The Divine Bird's face was pure and holy, as if it was really a divine bird. Chapter 1450. The Divine Bird directly burned Yi Kuen to death. Then, as if nothing had happened, it scattered Yi Kuen's ashes and left with the army. Nan Lu Feng and Luo Bufan were both promoted by the Divine Bird. They might be more loyal to the Divine Bird and felt that it was right for the Divine Bird to kill Yi Kuen because Yi Kuen was indeed not suitable to be a commander. If they were handed over to Yi Kuen, the Snow Realm army would definitely suffer heavy losses. Yi Kuen's death was better than all the Snow Realm army's deaths since they were not familiar with Yi Kuen anyway. To the Snow Realm army, Yi Kuen was only a passerby. If he died, he died. Yi Qinghan was guarding against Yi Kuen, but the Divine Bird directly eliminated him. Sigh, Master, nothing is foolproof. I only did this to eliminate all future troubles. I think you also wanted to kill him but just couldn't let it go. I will help you deal with him, just cultivate in peace. The Divine Bird secretly said to itself. Then, it led the army back to the barracks outside of Yeli City. Far away in the Great Wasteland domain, Yi Qinghan's original body slightly opened his eyes. He seemed to have sensed the sorrow from his bloodline and knew that Yi Kuen had died forever. He released his divine sense and constantly scanned the Great Wasteland domain. However, he couldn't find any trace of Yi Kuen. After asking the star-twisting vine outside the Great Wasteland Palace, he found out that Yi Kuen had left the Great Wasteland domain. Sigh, it's fate. Dying in the hands of the Divine Bird is also good. Yi Qinghan slowly shook his head and continued his seclusion to attack the pseudo-realm Lord Realm. The two clones were attacking the pseudo-realm Lord Realm. Once they became pseudo-realm lords, it would be beneficial for them to control the Great Wasteland Monument. At least, they would have a chance to survive when facing a heavily injured realm lord. The seven realms were in chaos. The initiator of all this, Yi Qinghan, ran to a secret place to cultivate. Everyone thought that the famous Left General had died. In just a few years, there were countless casualties in the seven worlds, but the main battlefield was the ultimate martial world. The casualties were the most severe, especially the civilians of the ultimate martial world. They were massacred by the other world armies, but the Snow World army was still sober and didn't go berserk. Not only did they accept captives, they also didn't harass the civilians. This caused the great provinces of the ultimate martial world to want to be occupied by the Snow World army, and some even took the initiative to help. This was because the Snow World army was the strongest and had the most virtuous paragons. Ji Gu, Zhu Wuxin, and the treacherous Divine Bird had the upper hand. The Divine Bird did not mind watching the show, it always wanted the seven realms to be more chaotic, so it kept adding to the chaos. Occasionally, it would even use underhanded tricks on Zhu Wuxin and Ji Gu, causing the Snow Realm army to suffer heavy losses. Their hatred grew heavier and heavier, and the ultimate martial world no longer had the strength to resist. The imperial city was about to be broken. Wu Jimu didn't want to fight anymore, he only wanted peace. The other worlds only wanted resources, but Shaolin's goal was to kill the Sky Martial supremacy. How could Wu Jimu agree to send the commander over, so he firmly disagreed. Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin were only battle maniacs, they weren't lunatics. They had fought more than 1,000 battles in the past few years, including the ultimate martial world, true martial world, 6 beast worlds, and the various great worlds. Their wild hearts had been restrained by a lot, they were just waiting for negotiations to cede territory and pay compensation. As long as the negotiations were done, they would be ready to withdraw. However, the Divine Bird's goal hadn't been achieved yet. How could it allow the Seven World War to end like this? The great armies from all sides were ready to make a move. They approached the imperial city and requested for Wu Jimu to personally come out and negotiate. Wu Jimu's expression was extremely ugly. The ultimate martial world only had the Sky Martial supremacy left from the 10 great armies, and he had been leading the army for so long with his injuries. If they were to give up the Sky Martial supremacy's life now, the ultimate martial world would be finished before anyone else could attack. Looking at the great army outside the city, Wu Jimu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "My ultimate martial world no longer wishes to participate in the Seven World War. You can settle your grudges on your own, but you must leave the ultimate martial world. Leaving the ultimate martial world is not a problem, but you must hand over the Sky Martial supremacy to me. Pay compensation for all the losses of my true martial world, and Shaolin Jun will immediately retreat." Shaolin said aggressively and coldly. "Impossible. You invaded my ultimate martial world and caused such great losses, yet you still want us to pay compensation for your losses. You even want the life of my ultimate martial world's only general. You are simply going too far." Wu Jimu roared angrily. "Ha ha ha. This old man is going too far. The Sky Martial supremacy ordered a suicide squad to enter my true martial world Shaolin City and kill all the experts of my race, humiliating the women. The entire Shaolin City is only left with the old, the weak, and the sick. This war is a war of revenge, a war of justice. Wu Jimu, hand over the Sky Martial supremacy today and give us 300 million gene of treasures and resources, and I will spare your life. Otherwise, my great army will definitely invade the imperial city and slaughter the imperial family." Shaolin was so angry that he laughed and said coldly. This marshal definitely did not send anyone into the true martial world. If you want to accuse someone, why worry about the pretext? The Sky Martial supremacy's face was pale as he appeared on the city wall with the help of others. He stared at Shaolin with hatred. If not for the true martial world suddenly joining the war, the Snow Country's divine world would have been defeated long ago. Even the Snow Country's divine world would not be a match for them. Unfortunately, the situation was completely reversed. If not you, who else could it be? I saw it with my own eyes, and my son heard it with his own ears. You don't need to quibble. If you dare to do it, then you must dare to admit it. Shaolin scolded, don't be like a little bastard. You dare to do it but don't dare to admit it. The two of them were cursing and quarreling. The three commanders of the Snow Country and the Divine World were expressionless. They were coldly looking at the current situation. Only they knew that the group that had entered the Zhen Wuxia was led by the left commander. In fact, at this time, among the seven realms, only the defeated ultimate martial world wanted to stop the war. However, the other realms did not have the intention to stop the war. This was because the war now was not just about snatching resources, but also about hatred. For example, the six beast worlds were ambushed by the formless world and lost at least hundreds of thousands of elite soldiers. If they did not take revenge now, when would they? The hatred between the supreme world and the true martial world was not small. Both sides had lost about a few million. If one were to talk about the smallest loss, it would probably be the left marshal's army in the Snow Country's divine world. There were basically no deaths, and the soldiers were very well trained. Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin looked at each other and secretly communicated. They wanted to come up with a plan to either fight or retreat. However, before retreating, they would definitely take away a batch of resources. However, at this time, the left marshal's army's flag suddenly fluttered. Many of the soldiers looked at the divine bird, not knowing what it wanted to do. Come, take a look, take a look. My left marshal's army is strong and can fight well. They can be hired by others. Each person can pay 5 kilograms of top-quality resources a day. If you can afford it, then hire them. If you can't, then don't talk about it. The divine bird suddenly looked at Wu Jimu and shouted. Its meaning was very clear. It wanted Wu Jimu to hire these 3 million soldiers. Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin frowned and looked at the divine bird, not knowing what it wanted to do. Wu Jimu obviously did not believe the divine bird. This bird's name had already spread to the seven realms. It was cunning and sly, and would definitely not let others take advantage of it. Chapter 1451. Ji Gu turned to look at the divine bird. The commanders of the seven realms were also looking at this nondescript commander. This left commander's army was not small. Their battle strength and fighting spirit were the strongest. There were many capable people in the army, and many of them were treacherous. They were good at leading troops. 3 million troops were enough to change the situation, not to mention there were many prisoners of war. What do you want to do? Ji Gu frowned and asked. I want to kill Shaolin and avenge Lu Zhantian and cousins Wuxia. The divine bird said seriously. Ji Ji's eyes twitched, but he had no way to stop it. Zhu Wuxian also wanted to avenge the left commander's mansion. Naturally, he did not want the war to end like this. Wu Jimu stared at the divine bird. He did not know if it really wanted to use the army as mercenaries. This divine bird is a man of his words. Does no one want to hire this commander? I promise to be invincible. The divine bird shouted arrogantly. The left commander's mansion's army was extremely excited. The drums rumbled, and they raised their spears and shouted. Their momentum was unparalleled. It was as if they did not put the world's army in their eyes. The divine bird looked at the hesitant Wu Jimu and pretended to sigh. Sigh, I just can't stand some people who bully others with their power. That's why I wanted to help them and get some resources for my brothers to cultivate. It's a pity that no one wants to hire me. Forget it. Let's go. After the divine bird finished speaking, it waved its wings and left with the army. A group of people looked at each other. They did not even want the resources after the war. Wait! Wu Ji-mu quickly stopped the divine bird. At this time, only the divine bird could save the situation. If the divine bird was hired, the Snow Realm army would definitely withdraw from the battlefield. At the very least, they would not make things difficult for the ultimate martial realm. The divine bird turned its back to Wu Ji-mu and secretly smiled. It then turned to look at Wu Ji-mu seriously and asked, "What's the matter? This emperor wants to hire you." "How?" Wu Ji-mu asked. The divine bird lowered its head and pondered for a moment. Then, it said in a solemn voice, "The 7 realms have suffered a great loss this time. Since the 6 realms are pressuring the city, your compensation will definitely not be small. At the very least, each clan will have to pay 150 million caddies of resources above the giant god level. 6 clans will have to pay 1.8 billion caddies. It's enough to crush your ultimate martial realm. This divine bird is not greedy. I only want 900 million genes of giant god level and above resources for my brothers to cultivate. Then, I will drive all of you out of the 6 realms. When the time comes, you can even snatch a portion of the resources from other worlds. This is equivalent to reducing your losses by more than half, or even not losing at all. You can even take revenge." Whoosh! Everyone was in an uproar as they stared angrily at the divine bird. This thing's taste was too extreme, it actually wanted to take all the resources for itself. What a joke! Even a beast dared to boast. You want to monopolize the resources? In your dreams. True martial realms Shaolin cursed. At this moment, even Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin were frowning. The divine bird was too greedy. This was not a good thing. Could it lead the remnants of the ultimate martial realm to counterattack the 6 realms? Even if the Snow Country and God Realm did not participate, the other 5 realms would still be able to destroy it. Wu Ji-mu didn't believe that the divine bird was capable of such a feat. There was disdain and doubt in his eyes. "You don't believe me? You can ask the brothers behind me." The divine bird was proud as it turned around to look at the 3 million Snow Country's elite troops and the 1 million captive troops. It said indifferently, "Brothers, tell them, can we destroy this group of trash for the sake of 900 million genes of resources?" "Yes. Of course we can. Fight! Fight! Fight!" The army's aura was magnificent as their voices shook the heavens. The aura of 4 million people suppressed the aura of the other 5 realms. The armies of the 5 realms surrounded the imperial city of the ultimate martial realm, including the peerless realm. The losses of the peerless realm were too great. They would definitely need the ultimate martial realm to compensate. However, how could Wu Ji-mu be willing to compensate so much at this moment? The armies of the 5 realms began to be wary of the divine bird's left Martial Residence's army. Their side had at least 3 million soldiers while the armies of the 5 realms were around 20 million. Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin each had 4 million soldiers. Their losses were the least. Furthermore, there were experts from the ultimate martial realm joining the army. Thus, their army did not decrease in the end. Both sides were in a stalemate. However, the divine bird did not care. Instead, it played with the universe ring on its claw and said indifferently, "As long as you contribute 300 million genes of resources, I can make them retreat 30,000 li from the imperial city in 2 hours. Wu Ji-mu frowned as he looked at Sovereign Martial Emperor. He didn't know if he should believe the divine bird. Sovereign Martial Emperor's face was pale. He no longer had the strength to fight. In order to preserve his life, he could only try his best. He said hoarsely, "Your Majesty, if we lose, I'm afraid that we won't be able to keep these resources. We might even lose our lives. Why don't we take a gamble?" The armies of the 5 realms did not move at all. They did not take the initiative to attack the Snow Country's divine realm. After all, the Snow Country's divine realm's army was the strongest right now. The divine bird was lying to Wujimu. Thus, they all adopted the method of dealing with whatever came their way. Wujimu moved the treasury of the imperial city and took out 300 million genes of resources. He had already taken out 1/5 of the treasury of the imperial city. This was the foundation of a country. Under normal circumstances, it would not be used. The divine bird accepted it without hesitation. The experts of the divine martial realm, the supreme realm, the formless realm, the 6 beast realms, and the true martial realm all smiled mockingly. They felt that Wujimu was an idiot. He had no choice but to believe this stupid bird. However, the divine bird nodded at Wujimu with satisfaction. Arrogantly, it raised its head and said, "Not bad. I admire you. A wise man submits to circumstances. If I don't save you, it will damage my reputation. Who will be willing to work with me in the future?" "Hey, you can't be serious, right?" Ji Gu quickly asked. "Do you think it's fake? This divine bird is a man of his word. You can definitely trust me." The divine bird smiled confidently and let the army divide the 300 million genes of resources. The army's morale was high, and their battle intent was soaring. Zhu Wuxin's mouth twitched. Although he was dissatisfied with the divine bird's actions, he had already ordered people to secretly mobilize the army to support the divine bird. After all, he still had to give face to the left general. "You're courting death." Shaolin's eyes were full of anger. He said coldly, "The Snow Country and the divine realm have already obtained the resources. Get out of the battlefield. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Whoosh! Shaolinjun's movements were uniform. He took a few steps forward, hoping that the Snow Country and the divine realm army would retreat. "Humph! I'll let you see my hidden treasure. The power of the heavenly dipper exploding divine stone." After the divine bird finished speaking, it took out a fist-sized stone from its universe ring. It was colorful and shone brightly. The runes on it were intertwined, and it looked very messy. "What's that?" Everyone stretched their heads to look at the stone in the divine bird's hand. However, they found that there was no energy fluctuation in the stone. Then, they all laughed, mocking the divine bird for being mysterious. "Idiot, if you could see the problem, how could I hide it from my master and hide it?" The divine bird mocked proudly. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The divine bird poured a trace of divine power into the rune. Suddenly, the divine light dissipated, and a world-destroying power appeared in the stone. It could explode at any time. A boundary stone that was filled with energy. Once it was hit, it would explode just like the Origin Sacred Stone. Its power was no less than the Origin Sacred Stone. Chapter 1452. The divine bird was holding a round gem. If it wasn't a world stone, what else could it be? Shwa! At this moment, the 6 armies began to frantically retreat, including Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin. Divine bird! This isn't a joke. Keep the energy-saturated world stone. Ji Gu shouted in shock. Gagaga, they won't listen to me if I keep it. I promised Wujimu to chase the invaders out. The divine bird laughed sinisterly. Fuck, why would Marshal Zhua give you such a thing? You lunatic, if it really self-destructs, you will be the first to bear the brunt. Ji Gu angrily reminded. What do you mean he gave it to me? All his good things were snatched from my hands. This world stone was something I hid with great difficulty. The divine bird said disdainfully. Everyone was anxious and angry. Was this thing really a bird? Why was it so cunning? It even dared to disobey its master. Was there anything it didn't dare to do? Thus, they didn't bother with the divine bird at all. They turned around and retreated. The divine bird was incomparably arrogant as it chased after them with its army. The 6 armies quickly retreated 30,000 li. The divine bird was bluffing and turned around to run back. Wu Jimu was overjoyed. The 300 million jin of resources was worth it. At least they managed to protect the imperial city. The divine bird held onto the saturated world stone and maintained a distance of a few thousand meters from the imperial city. With a flap of its wings, Luo Bufan immediately understood what it meant. He stepped forward and said, "My great commander said that he wants you to hand over another 150 million jin of resources to us. After that, Great Commander Sky Marshal Saint will clean up the remaining troops and chase all the people from the outside world back with us. Hand it over." Wu Jimu didn't hesitate to wave his hand. The finance minister behind felt his heart ache. How long had it been? 2/5 of the giant god-level resources had been used. The supreme-level resources had been reduced by 1%. However, the best resources hadn't been touched. This was the best consolation. The divine bird was immensely proud. Seeing the other party offer up the resources, it said straightforwardly, "Give it to the brothers. When Marshal Sky Marshal Emperor has organized the troops, we will counterattack." The Snow Border Army was incomparably excited. There was meat to eat by following the divine bird. This sentence was indeed true. Even the captive army had been replenished with resources, and the quantity was not small. The captive army was perhaps the most excited. The divine bird treated everyone equally, and they were not cannon fodder. The Martial Heaven Sovereign had used precious treasures and resources to recover around 50% of his power. He was suppressing his own potential and organizing an army to counterattack. When the ultimate martial world blew the horn for a counterattack, quite a few experts responded and began to charge into the imperial city to join the Martial Heaven Legion. The divine bird led the left Marshal's Mansion's army to guard outside the city. They were carefree all day long. The army looked relaxed, but once their nerves were stretched taut, they could definitely tear apart the 5 million strong army. Inside the barracks, the army was cultivating madly. With so many resources, cultivating to increase their combat strength was their own. Otherwise, if they died in battle, they would become the spoils of war for others. Supreme Marshal Saint organized for more than 10 days before he managed to organize an army of 1 million soldiers. The divine bird repeatedly comforted them, telling them to slowly organize. In any case, it was not in a rush. That night, Ji Gu personally appeared in the left Marshal's Mansion's main camp. Looking at the divine bird, he asked in a deep voice, "What do you want to do? What you're doing is very risky. It's very easy for the flames of war to spread to the Snow Empire and the Divine Realm." The divine bird said nonchalantly, "They dare to attack, but you don't dare to resist. Fuck. If the flames of war spread to the Snow Empire and the Divine Realm, our world would be like this, filled with devastation." Ji Gu angrily reminded. "Tsk tsk tsk," the divine bird's words were filled with disdain. Looking at Ji Gu, it said, "Yo, since when did our great military saint care about the commoners? Now you know how to be benevolent." Ji Gu was angered by the divine bird's tone. He coldly asked, "Tell me the truth, what do you want to do?" The divine bird looked at Ji Ji's serious face and knew that it could not hide it any longer. It replied, "I want to lure the 7 realm masters out and let them kill each other. Then, reshuffle the cards. Gagaga, this divine bird is the master of the 9 realms." Zeng zeng zeng. Ji Ji's face was filled with shock. He retreated a few steps and looked at the divine bird in disbelief. He hoarsely roared, "You're crazy. Look at how scared you are. You don't even have this much ambition. You still dare to say that you're a military saint. You can't even reach half of your master, Mr. Ling Yen." The divine bird lazily said, "My master will not be like you, like a madman. When the realm master comes out, he can destroy the left martial residence's army with one slap. Ji Gu coldly reminded. The divine bird curled its lips and impatiently said, I'm too lazy to explain to you. This divine bird has its own ways. It's up to you whether you cooperate or not. Anyway, I will definitely play a big show. I am the true military saint. Ji Ji's face was ferocious. The corner of his mouth twitched. No matter how good his temper was, he could still be angered to death by the divine bird. Reshuffle the cards, what a wonderful thing. This divine bird likes to set the rules and does not like to listen to other people's rules. Are you not the same? The divine bird retorted. Humph. Ji Gu snorted and said, now, I can also set the rules and not listen to other people's rules. That may not be so. When the realm master comes out of seclusion, those old things like your master will return from the danger zone. I don't believe that you can control your own fate. The divine bird sneered. Ji Ji's face slightly changed. The divine bird's words were not without reason. When those old things returned, his words would definitely be their will. Moreover, he had helped to destroy the divine sect, defeated the heavenly hall, and dealt with the imperial family's grand elder. When those old things returned, wouldn't they find him to settle the score? Handsome brother, go back and think about it. Reshuffle the cards. That is my master's lifelong wish. Although my master is dead, I want to complete his dying wish. No one can stop me. The divine bird said firmly. The army camp was dead silent. No one came close. Ji Gu thought for a long time and faintly asked, what do you want to do? Right now, the true martial world and the ultimate martial world have suffered the most losses. The ultimate martial world has been invaded, and their losses are unimaginable. Their hatred for the true martial world has risen to the level of racial hatred. If I help the Sky Martial World to attack the true martial world's imperial city, do you think the Sky Martial World will be so angry that they will slaughter the imperial city? At that time, the realm master of the true martial world will definitely come out of seclusion. I will lead the army to escape first. The Sky Martial World will definitely die in the hands of the realm master of the true martial world. I can help my master take revenge and lure the realm master out. They are already heavily injured, and if they kill each other, I will come out when it is almost over. Who knows who will die and who will live? The divine bird grinned sinisterly. Ji Gu frowned as he looked at the divine bird. He doubted whether its words were true or false. He simply could not believe it. Would it be so kind as to tell me the real plan? Ji Gu was secretly suspicious. The divine bird said seriously, you are a young and promising military saint. You do not lose to my master. This divine bird admires you. If you follow me, I guarantee that you will be able to stand above the rules and become the only one who can set the rules. Chapter 1453. This was the first time Ji Gu was evaluated like this, and the other party was a bird, so the black lines on his forehead were very obvious. I will not be as crazy as you. Ji Gu refused without hesitation. Don't be in such a hurry to refuse, I will not misjudge you, you are destined to be extraordinary, if you submit to the old rules, you are destined to be a stepping stone for others, go back and think about it. The divine bird said seriously. Humph. Ji Gu snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves and left. The next morning, Zhu Wuxin also found the divine bird and asked it about the plan. The divine bird also told it the plan without hesitation. Zhu Wuxin's heart was rolling and his blood was boiling, but there was also a trace of resistance and fear in his heart. The divine bird would not force him too much, as if he was dispensable, it did not even ask him to stay, and directly sent him off. Zhu Wuxin and Ji Gu were confused by the divine bird, the more the plan was explained, the more they did not believe it. Yeli City seemed to have not experienced any war, it was bustling, the war zone after Yeli City, the places occupied by the Snow Border Army, were all bustling. Compared to the other areas that were full of devastation, this was heaven. Zhu Wuxin and Ji Gu met in front of a small stream, their faces dignified. What do you think about the divine bird's plan? Even if I am experienced and knowledgeable, I can't tell what its plan is. Ji Gu said with a bitter smile. Zhu Wuxin shrugged and said indifferently, didn't it say, it wants to rebuild the order of the 9 worlds? You believe it? Ji Gu asked disdainfully. I don't believe it. With this guy's temper, it will never tell us its real purpose. Even if its plan is real, it will try its best to rope us in. I'm afraid it will use treacherous methods to drag us in. It will not be like now. It seems to be impatient and directly kicked me out. Zhu Wuxin leaned on an old tree, looking at the brambles and weeping willows on both sides of the stream, and fell into deep thought. When Zhu Wuxin said this, Ji Ji's eyebrows furrowed, and he suddenly said doubtfully, after hearing what you said, I suddenly believe it. Think about it, if I told you this plan directly, would you believe me? Of course I don't believe you. Zhu Wuxin replied without hesitation. Ji Gu slapped his thigh and suddenly realized, this cheap bird is famous for being cheap. It never takes the normal path. What others think is impossible, it will do. What others think is the most correct, it will never do. It did not hesitate to tell us the plan. It clearly wants us to doubt it, and this plan is its real plan. Is it taking advantage of our suspicions and worries? Then how intelligent is it? The corner of Zhu Wuxin's mouth twitched. He suddenly felt ashamed of his inferiority. If he was a military saint, then what was the divine bird? Also, think about how Marshall's cousin Yi Kun died. From what I know, there isn't a second army to stop Shaolin, but he sent Yi Kun to extreme Celestial Ridge to stop Shaolin's 100,000 strong army. He's clearly trying to kill Shaolin with a borrowed knife. Why didn't it just kill Yi Kun? With its level of control over the left Marshall's Mansion's army, wouldn't killing Yi Kun be child's play? But it didn't. Why? Ji Gu was extremely intelligent and began to reason slowly. Zhu Wuxin did not react at first, but after being reminded, he suddenly said in shock, you're saying that it's afraid of being blamed by Marshall's, so it wants to shirk responsibility. But Marshall's has already died in battle, so it doesn't have to worry at all. There's only one reason why it's doing this now, and that's because Marshall's is not dead. Yes. Zhuo Feng is not dead. Ji Gu said with certainty. At this point, the 2 great military sages trembled, as if they were puppets being led around by someone. The elites of the left Marshall's Mansion also didn't die in battle. We've been fooled. Zhu Wuxin was extremely shocked. He could not believe what Marshall's was plotting. The 2 great military sages were stunned by the stream, their breathing rapid. At this time, they had to consider the divine bird's plan. The divine bird is carrying out Zhuo Feng's plan. The one who really wants to restore order in the 9 worlds is not the divine bird, but Zhuo Feng, Marshall's. Ji Gu speculated in shock. While the 2 great military sages were discussing the divine bird's plan, the divine bird had already led its army into the 9 worlds with the help of the Heaven Martial Legion. It didn't chase after anyone else, only Shaolin Jun. It was incomparably powerful. Cities were taken back one by one. The ones attacking the cities were the Heaven Martial Legion, while the left Marshall's Mansion's army was only responsible for supporting and scaring them. Occasionally, the divine bird would take out a world stone filled with energy to scare the defenders. Whoosh, the divine bird threw out a 7-colored divine stone. Divine light shot out in all directions as it flew towards the city walls. Ah, it's a world stone filled with energy. Boom! The defenders fled, abandoning the city. The Heaven Martial Legion took advantage of this and took back another city. However, the world stone didn't explode because the stone thrown out by the divine bird wasn't a world stone. It was even more impossible for it to be a world stone filled with energy. It only had one such treasure, so how could it throw it out for the ultimate martial world? However, Shaolin didn't dare to gamble. If he lost, he would definitely die. Thus, as soon as the divine bird threw out the divine stone, he immediately turned and ran. After running twice, even the morale of the army was gone. The defenders fled madly. After conquering 3 prefectures, Shaolin's army was no longer cohesive. There were only a few 100,000 people left. Shaolin was furious. He knew that the situation was hopeless and didn't want to continue fighting with the divine bird. He directly led the defenders of the various cities back to the true martial world. The martial emperor was ecstatic. This kind of battle was extremely satisfying. He had never felt as good in his entire life as he had recently. The reports of victory were sent back one by one. Wu Jimu was grinning from ear to ear. He wished that he could give all the treasures to the divine bird so that it could become his commander and be used by him. One after another, martial emperor-level treasures were sent to the front lines by Wu Jimu. All of them were delivered to the divine bird. The divine bird accepted them without any hesitation. As the saying goes, one's mouth is soft after eating someone's food. Since it had taken so many treasures, it naturally put in more effort. Not only did it take back all the lost territories that Shaolin had occupied, it even invaded the true martial world. It only attacked the cities and didn't disturb the people. The powerful forces of the true martial world also didn't resist, making it easier for the army to conquer the true martial world. The divine bird's goal was to rebuild the order of the 9 worlds. Naturally, it wouldn't offend the true martial world. Sometimes, the martial emperor wanted to take revenge, but they were stopped by the divine bird. It even killed a captain for this reason. Only then did the martial emperor have no choice but to behave. Although the martial emperor was somewhat dissatisfied, he didn't dare to offend the divine bird. He could only grit his teeth and endure. As for Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin, they were already dumbfounded. They didn't expect the divine bird to be so powerful. It led the army straight into the heart of the true martial world. It didn't even need their cooperation. The divine bird was now arrogant to the point of being frivolous. It was as if there was nothing in the world that it couldn't do. "AI, Master, don't come back. You'll affect my performance." The divine bird stood on top of a city wall and looked disdainfully at everyone. Its wings were golden, and its aura was magnificent and incomparably majestic. Chapter 1454. In the void ocean, Yi Qinghan was still bitterly cultivating. In this past year, he had consumed an unknown amount of resources, but he was only able to utilize 50% of the giant blood race's genes. Only now did he realize how powerful the giant blood race was. His body was comparable to a pseudo-world artifact, but his cultivation had yet to reach that level. Boom! 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 Yi Qinghan's giant blood race had begun to suppress the dragon blood. They were both suppressing and strengthening each other, forming a virtuous cycle. The power of the giant blood race's bloodline was getting stronger and stronger. The pressure was getting heavier and heavier. It had already penetrated the barrier and was rushing towards the sea folk continent. The elders of the Sea Dragon clan woke up one after another. They looked at Yi Qinghan's room and felt a strong pressure. This pressure came from his bloodline. What a powerful bloodline! What bloodline does this person have? It can actually suppress my Sea Dragon bloodline. A dignified elder asked in shock. I don't know. If the patriarch brought him here, then he must be extraordinary. Another old man stared into the distance, looking at the phenomenon of the world and the raging waves hitting the shore. His eyes were filled with shock. Yi Qinghan was sweating profusely. Not only did he need to make a breakthrough, but he also needed to maintain the balance between the dragon blood and the giant blood race. Otherwise, the two bloodlines would devour the other at any time. The giant blood race had their own advantages. Moreover, the dragon blood in his body had been refined for many years. It was naturally in harmony with his grand desolate physique. He couldn't allow the giant blood race to devour it. Ding! Just as the two sides were in a stalemate, the stone sword suddenly shook. The giant blood race roared and turned into a sky-devouring wave that covered his limbs and bones. The sound of his blood flowing could be heard, and even Emperor Yi was startled awake. His large, black eyes were constantly moving. He raised his lily-white hand, and a divine guqin appeared in his hand. He gently stroked the strings, and a melodious melody turned into a spiritual liquid that nourished the heavens and the earth, sprinkling down on the world. Half of the sea race continent could hear it clearly. The zither music had a calming effect and suppressed distracting thoughts. Yi Qinghan released his divine sense and became one with Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi could sense the bloodline power in his body, even the slightest change. Emperor Yi gently stroked the zither strings, helping Yi Qinghan stabilize his qi and blood, maintaining the stability of the two major bloodlines. Yi Qinghan was completely relaxed, leaving the stability of his bloodlines to Emperor Yi without any worries. Perhaps in this world, only Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi could do this. No one else would be able to completely trust another person. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan no longer felt any pressure. His hands grabbed onto two world stones that weighed several genes each. He crazily devoured the power of the world. Apart from the power of the Great Desolation, everything else in his body had been converted into world power. With a single thought, the world desolates. When the second thought arose, the vault of heaven was destroyed. When the thought of kindness arose, rottenwood became spring. When the thought of evil arose, everything vanished. The order of desolation, my will, the order of the world, be born. Yi Qinghan released his divine sense and rushed towards the desolation of the universe, spreading outwards. The soul of a world lord was spreading outwards as though he was sensing the world, sensing the vast ocean of nothingness. An undying will was attacking the bottleneck of the pseudo-world lord realm. The stars in the depths of the sea of bitterness were revolving rapidly, just like the real universe. The world of bitterness was being born. Back then, that world had just started to give birth to life when it was destroyed by the alliance of 7 world lords. Now, they had no choice but to rebuild the world. Everything was familiar, but it was even easier now. Boom boom boom. The bottleneck of the pseudo-world lord realm was like the barrier of the world, firm and hard to break. Yi Qinghan used his soul to forcefully shatter the barrier. The pseudo-world lord realm posed no pressure to him at all. After all, his soul was at the world lord realm. Whoosh! After breaking through to the pseudo-world lord realm, his comprehension and usage of the world energy instantly rose by several hundred times. With a wave of his hand, he devoured all the world stones. The world energy in his body filled his limbs and bones, increasing his combat strength by more than 100 times. Yi Qinghan's pseudo-world lord realm didn't only require him to comprehend the world energy, he also needed to construct his own world. Of course, others didn't need to do so. Only the world lords had their own world. Life could be born in the world after a long period of time. The life would treat the world lord as its father and obey him completely, never betraying him. Back then, the world of the 7 world lords didn't give birth to life. Now that so many years had passed, even if they were born naturally, they should have given birth to life. 10,000 years was enough for a civilization to be replaced, an era to be replaced by another era. It was definitely improving. It was unknown how strong the life forms in the worlds of the 7 world lords were. Yi Qinghan's current starting point was already too late for them. Hence, he needed to construct his own world in advance. The stars in Yi Qinghan's sea of bitterness flickered and expanded outwards. The world grew bigger and bigger. The barrier of the world kept shattering. Light kept appearing in the dark primal chaos. Stars kept appearing in tens of thousands of small light dots rapidly appeared in the world. Those were the stars. Open. Yi Qinghan transformed into a small person in his sea of consciousness. His body transformed into a long blade and slashed towards the depths of the primal chaos. His will was immortal, as though he was splitting the heaven and earth apart. His aura swept across the sea of bitterness. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's divine sense seemed to be controlling the entire 9 worlds heavens, including the void ocean. His sea of consciousness was the void ocean, and above the sea of bitterness was the 9 worlds heavens. He was completely constructing his own world according to the 9 worlds heavens. Constructing a world wasn't something that could be completed in a day. However, the size of the world was determined by the World Lord. The power of the small person in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness seemed to be endless. He kept slashing out blade rays, shattering the primal chaos, splitting the spacetime and expanding the size of the world. It looked like an ordinary blade slashing open a small area. However, once the world was formed, the area slashed open by the blade would be equivalent to a galaxy. The size of the world was directly proportional to the strength of the World Lord. The stronger the World Lord was, the larger the area he could open up. The area he could open up would be magnified countless times and become his personal world. The bigger the world, the higher the probability of forming a land of life. All of this was related to cause and effect. Yi Qinghan was now a fake World Lord. He had already opened up his world. No matter how big or small it was, once he broke through to the World Lord realm, he would be able to open up a second time. At that time, the size of his world would exceed the limit and might even be bigger than the 9 worlds heavens. Open. 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 Yi Qinghan's voice was like thunder, reverberating in the sea of consciousness. Every slash contained the power to destroy the heavens. The size of the world was rapidly expanding. Shua shua shua. Xiu xiu xiu. Yi Qinghan's small person was like a war god. It was unknown how long he had been opening up the world. He was exhausted to the extreme and had no choice but to give up. Looking at the boundless starlight above the sea of bitterness, Yi Qinghan slowly stood up and grinned. With a wave of his hand, he controlled the laws and order of the oceanic race continent. Fake World Lord. Although he was only an ordinary king, in terms of combat strength, even 1,000 brilliant sky sea dragon kings wouldn't be able to defeat him. It could even be said that they wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. Yi Qinghan's aura was vast and mighty. At this moment, he seemed to be the sky, the ocean of nothingness. It made people despair. They couldn't resist at all. This made the sea dragon experts at the foot of Dragon Mountain suck in cold air. They didn't know what to do. Chapter 1455. The sea roared as the waves hit the 9 heavens. The void ocean outside Dragon Mountain was restless. Dark clouds covered the sky as heavy rain poured down, covering the sky with mist. Even the azure dragon was alarmed. He quickly came out of seclusion and looked at Yi Qinghan's imposing aura. It was as if he was looking at the war lord of the wasteland. He stood there like the world itself. He was the will, he was the order. Who would dare to fight him alone? The azure dragon became more and more certain that Yi Qinghan was the war lord of the wasteland. Other than him, no one else had his aura and temperament. Desolate, overbearing, vast, and filled with sunshine. He was a very contradictory person. He could make people cry, but at the same time, he could make people laugh. The sea dragon experts looked at Yi Qinghan's smile and felt sour in their hearts. It was as if they were looking at the desolation of the world. It was as if he was the only person in the world. He was lonely, proud, and alone. No one could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Emperor Yi looked at Yi Qinghan's lonely back. His powerful aura didn't shake her. They were like water and milk. No matter how strong his aura was, Emperor Yi felt that it was his own aura. Da. Emperor Yi took a few steps forward and reached out to grab Yi Qinghan's hand. She said softly, "There's still me. You're not alone." Yi Qinghan turned his head and looked at Emperor Yi with pity. The reason why he was able to break through so smoothly was mainly because of her support. He couldn't help but reach out and grab Emperor Yi's shoulder. He pulled her into his embrace and laughed, "Ha ha ha ha. From today onwards, the warlord of the wasteland, heaven's equal. I'm back. Hua." At this moment, Yi Qinghan's aura became even more ruthless, tyrannical, and unyielding. Gales rose up in all directions. His divine robes and black hair danced in the wind. It was as if the entire world was moving for him. It was extremely shocking. After reaching the pseudo-world lord realm, Yi Qinghan no longer needed to suppress his temper. Now, even if he faced off against the world lords of the seven realms, he had absolute confidence that he could escape. After all, the Great Wasteland domain was no longer his concern. His avatar was enough to bring the Great Wasteland monument away. The citizens of the Great Wasteland were all inside the Great Wasteland monument, so who could restrain him? Yi Qinghan's lips curled into an arrogant smile. He clenched his fists, causing his veins to bulge. His imposing figure rose into the air as if he wanted to compete with the heavens and earth. Although Qitian Warlord couldn't defeat heaven, he wouldn't allow heaven to defeat him either. Other than him, no one else had reached this level. At least in the 9 worlds, no one had reached this level. Shua. Void Azure Dragon and Yi Qinghan glanced at each other. They felt as if they were looking into the eyes of a heavenly beast. Chills ran down their spines and their eyes felt like they were being pricked by needles. They hurriedly lowered their heads and said, "Greetings, Dao friend Yi. Congratulations on breaking through and returning to the peak." With his current cultivation, Yi Qinghan naturally wasn't Void Azure Dragon's match. However, Void Azure Dragon was afraid and didn't dare to fight against Yi Qinghan. In Void Azure Dragon's eyes, a world lord was a heavenly beast and couldn't be disobeyed. Even if Yi Qinghan's cultivation dropped, he still couldn't be his enemy. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and said, "Peak? It's far from enough. However, I have to thank Dao friend Void Azure Dragon. If it wasn't for you, I would have needed at least a few thousand years or even 10,000 years to reach this level. It's my duty, it's my duty. Dao friend, you don't have to be so polite." Void Azure Dragon hurriedly said. Yi Qinghan looked at Void Azure Dragon's attitude and said indifferently, "Dao friend, you might as well reconsider my previous proposal. I need that meteorite to make a world artifact. As long as you're willing to help me, I can push you to the heavenly beast realm with both hands." Yi Qinghan said it casually. It wasn't that he was arrogant, but that Void Azure Dragon's realm was too high. He had a higher chance of becoming a world lord than Jing Wei. Void Azure Dragon was incomparably excited. This was the closest he had ever been to becoming a heavenly beast. If he could seize this opportunity, the sea dragon race could rise. If he couldn't, then he would completely miss the opportunity. Without the help of a world lord, it was very difficult for anyone to become a world lord. Yi Qinghan was his greatest opportunity. You can't use the meteorite in the treasury and waste countless years. Why not exchange it for a divine ability? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. All right. I agree. Void Azure Dragon said in a firm voice. Yi Qinghan hugged Emperor Yi and stepped through mountains and rivers. His figure flashed and appeared in Sea Dragon City. Only smart people can go further. I think you can advance to the heavenly beast realm and become the person who sets the rules of the world. There was only one big city in the entire continent. It was divided into inner and outer cities. The inner city was filled with terrifying rare bloodlines of the sea race. Yi Qinghan restrained his aura and held Emperor Yi's hand. At this moment, Emperor Yi had already reverted to his female form. One was as beautiful as jade with an otherworldly temperament, while the other was as beautiful as a peerless beauty. They attracted the eyes of experts from various races. What an otherworldly human. I didn't expect there to be such a human. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Both of them have tender skin and strong blood chi. It must be very satisfying to eat them. Kakik, wouldn't it be a pity to eat such a beautiful person? Some experts didn't care about offending people. Their voices were very loud and reverberated in the streets, causing a group of C-race experts to laugh. Yi Qinghan faintly glanced at these people and then walked towards the auction hall. Those experts glared back at them with even stronger gazes. If it weren't for the fact that the C-race continent prohibited fighting, they likely wouldn't have been able to restrain themselves and would have already rushed up to grab the two of them. Yi Qinghan led Emperor Yi on a leisurely stroll. Just as they arrived outside the auction hall, they were blocked by the Silver Snake female cultivator. "Yo, little big brother, I've been looking for you for so long. I thought you'd run away, but to think you'd still be here." The Silver Snake female cultivator twisted her slender waist, drooling with desire. But as she saw Emperor Ye's face, she couldn't help but be startled. Then, she said with some surprise, so you're actually a little woman. No wonder you don't pay any attention to me. Go away. You're like a ghost that won't leave. Emperor Yi didn't like the Silver Snake female cultivator at all. He immediately retorted in disgust. He, I like to pester people. If I like a man, he can't escape from my palm. Be careful of your man, don't dump him. The Silver Snake female cultivator deliberately looked at Emperor Yi provocatively. Yi Qinghan coldly looked at the Silver Snake female cultivator and said, "Don't provoke me. You can't afford to provoke me. I'd like to try." The Silver Snake female cultivator charmingly replied. Just as the three of them were staring at each other, Pafeng of the Sea race suddenly appeared. He looked at Yi Qinghan cruelly and said disdainfully, "Brat, I told you to stop pestering her. Are you looking to die? Are you blind? Can't you see that she's the one pestering us?" Emperor Yi angrily rebuked. Pafeng turned his head and looked at Emperor Yi. He couldn't help but be shocked. He immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. The greed in his eyes was self-evident. What a pure beauty! Pafeng immediately forgot about the Silver Snake female cultivator. With a face full of desire, he swallowed his saliva and arrogantly said, "I'm Pafeng, the young master of one of the 10 strongest races of the Sea race, the Sea race. Beauty, following me is better than following a human. Think about dumping this man and letting me accompany you. How about it?" Pa! Yi Qinghan raised his hand and slapped Pafeng in the face. His figure teleported and Pafeng didn't even have time to react. He was directly slapped in the face and spun around twice with a dumbfounded expression. Scram! Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse and emotionless. It was as if it came from the mouth of a corpse. It made people's hair stand on end. Pafeng's face was ferocious. His eyes were spitting fire as he roared, "Ant, you dare to attack me. You dare to attack me in the Sea race continent. You're dead." The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. They couldn't have predicted this outcome at all. The Silver Snake female cultivator's eyes were wide open. Her waist was trembling. She was happy, shocked, worried, and excited. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. He indifferently said, "If you don't want to die, you better scram now. If I want to kill you, the Order of the Sea race continent won't be able to protect you." Chapter 1456. On the street, a group of experts stared at Yi Qinghan and Pafeng in disbelief. Pafeng was even more shocked as he looked at Yi Qinghan. He felt as if he was dreaming. How could two humans be so arrogant in the oceanic continent? Moreover, they even dared to challenge him. "Who gave you such courage?" Pafeng coldly asked. "My fist gave me courage. Do you want to try?" Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Pa Feng almost couldn't hold back and was about to take the initiative to attack. But at this time, the auction hall seemed to have recognized Yi Qinghan and quickly stepped forward to stop them. The Sea Dragon clan's Yaoguang appeared between the two. Calm down, this is the oceanic continent. The land is only this big, and the inland is even smaller. Fighting is forbidden, these are the rules. I hope you won't make things difficult for the sea dragons. Yao Guang reminded. He humiliated me first. Pa Feng angrily said. You're the one who's shameless. You've repeatedly sent your face to us. You can't blame anyone else. Emperor Yi unceremoniously mocked. Bitch, you. Pa Feng cursed. Bang. In an instant, an afterimage bypassed Yao Guang. Its speed was faster than light. Yi Qinghan's blue veins were bulging as he ruthlessly slapped Pa Feng's face. Pa Feng didn't even finish cursing before he was sent flying by Yi Qinghan and crashed into the street. Bang! Pa Feng's body spun 360 degrees, and his handsome face smashed right into the street, rubbing against it for several meters before stopping. His skin was quite thick, and his skin wasn't broken, but the handprint of Yi Qinghan's 5 fingers remained on his face. Pa Feng was stunned. His brain was like paste and his soul was in a mess. After a long time, he struggled to stand up and glared at Yi Qinghan. Yao Guang's expression was very ugly. Even if his realm was higher than Yi Qinghan's, he still couldn't stop the attack because it was too fast. Fellow Daoist. Yao Guang stared at Yi Qinghan's back. He didn't want to offend him and could only hope that he wouldn't attack again. However, Yi Qinghan did not even turn his head as he coldly said to Pa Feng, "Shut up. How dare you hit me, Pa?" Yi Qinghan raised his hand and slapped Pa Feng again, knocking him to the ground. He said coldly, "Shut up. Every time you say a word, I'll slap you until you listen to me. My father is." Pa Feng covered his face and went crazy. He still wanted to use his father's prestige to threaten him, but unfortunately. Pa! Yi Qinghan slapped Pa Feng again, knocking him down. He pointed at Pa Feng and said, "Even if your father is the Dragon Emperor, it's not allowed. I told you to shut up. I'm going to have my father exterminate your entire clan." Pa Feng didn't know what was good for him. He threatened and intimidated Yi Qinghan, but he regretted it the next second because Yi Qinghan had become irritable. Pa pa pa. Boom. Boom. Bang. Yi Qinghan's speed was extremely fast. He slapped, punched, and then kicked. His attacks fell like raindrops, landing on Pa Feng's face, chest, and legs. I told you to shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Crack. Pa Feng's leg bone was broken by Yi Qinghan's kick. The broken bone was especially dazzling. Yao Guang was dumbfounded, and the surrounding experts were all dumbfounded. The silver snake female cultivator trembled all over and took a few steps back. Who would have thought that Yi Qinghan, who looked so gentle and graceful, would be so violent when he was angry? Pa Feng was weak. He wanted to speak, but when he saw Yi Qinghan's cold eyes, his throat felt like it was stuck. He couldn't speak at all and didn't dare to. Remember. The next time I tell you to shut up, you're not allowed to speak. Otherwise, your ending will be even worse than this. Yi Qinghan pointed at Pa Feng and said coldly. Pa Feng was silent. He just stared at Yi Qinghan fiercely. Pa! Yi Qinghan gave him a slap and asked angrily, I asked you a question. Did you hear me? Bang! Pa Feng was sent flying by this slap. His face was burning with pain. The pain penetrated into his bone marrow. He didn't dare to resist and quickly said, I heard you. It wasn't that Pa Feng didn't want to resist, but Yi Qinghan's speed was too fast and his strength was too strong. It was so fast that he didn't even have time to react before the slap landed on his body. The tyrannical strength rushed into his body and sealed his resistance. Fighting with Yi Qinghan in close range was simply asking for a beating. If Yi Qinghan was a realm lord's soul in a child's body, he wouldn't be able to do much. But now, the child had grown into a teenager. Although he wasn't an adult, the strength he could display was incomparable to a teenager. Scram! Yi Qinghan said coldly. Pa Feng didn't dare to provoke him anymore. He got up and ran away. The silver snake female cultivator's face was pale. She didn't expect Yi Qinghan's strength and speed to be this fast. Moreover, the sea dragon expert actually ignored him. No, he pretended not to see him. She couldn't afford to provoke him. If the sea dragon expert couldn't afford to provoke him, then why would she come and provoke him? Wasn't that just courting death? My lord, senior. This silver snake is very polite. I've offended you before. Please don't be angry. The silver snake female cultivator quickly apologized. She didn't even dare to raise her head. Yi Qinghan coldly glanced at the silver snake female cultivator. His aura gradually dissipated as he returned to his cultured and refined appearance. Many thanks for your realm stone. I need a guide in the void ocean. If you don't have anything to do, you can help guide me. Naturally, I won't treat you unfairly. Yi Qinghan indifferently said. Gulp. The silver snake female cultivator swallowed a mouthful of saliva. She didn't dare to provoke Yi Qinghan. She only wanted to apologize and leave. But now, Yi Qinghan actually took the initiative to ask her to stay as a guide. She didn't dare to refuse and could only nod again and again. Being able to serve senior is this silver snake's fortune. At this moment, Yao Guang was very dissatisfied. Yi Qinghan was too arrogant. He actually made a move in front of everyone. How would the sea dragon race be able to accept him in the future? Yi Qinghan also felt Yao Guang's dissatisfaction. As the saying goes, a strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. Since the sea dragon race was a local snake, he had to give them some face. He slightly bowed and said, "This Yi was impulsive just now. I ask fellow Taoist Yao Guang to forgive me. I will pay the fine and promise that I won't make a move here." Only then did Yao Guang feel a bit better. After all, there were so many people watching. With Yi Qinghan apologizing, he had gained some face. This farce should also be resolved in a reasonable manner. Don't do it again. As for the fine, just hand over 111th grade divine medicines. If you dare to make a move here again, you will be expelled from the oceanic continent, never to return. Yao Guang said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan handed over the fine with both hands. It could be said that he had turned a big problem into a small one. Although the experts of the various clans knew that this was against the rules, they didn't say anything. This was because they weren't stupid. They were all intelligent creatures. Who couldn't see that the sea dragon race didn't want to provoke Yi Qinghan? Just as Yi Qinghan was about to leave the oceanic continent and continue his search for treasures, Yao Guang quickly reminded him, "Fellow Taoist Yi, can't you see that there are a lot of oceanic race experts around here? There's a treasure being auctioned today. Do you want to participate?" Yi Qinghan looked around and saw that there were indeed a lot of top-notch experts around. He raised his hand and said, "Fellow Taoist, please lead the way." Chapter 1457. Outside the auction hall, there were still many experts walking in. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. Yi Qinghan was led by Yao Guang into the auction hall's inner hall. They walked through a special VIP passage and entered a VIP room with Emperor Yi. The location was quite good. As long as they opened the window, they could see the entire auction hall. The floor was also on the third floor. Only a few rooms on the fourth floor were open. The others were all locked. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi leaned against the window and looked down at the auction hall. There were at least 10,000 oceanic-raced demonic beasts in the hall downstairs. Most of them were half human and half beast. They couldn't transform into humans at all. The largest among them was only twice the size of a human. It wasn't a big deal and wouldn't waste too much space. Otherwise, large creatures wouldn't be allowed in here. There weren't any rare bloodlines in the hall. The truly powerful bloodlines were in the rooms. The higher the room, the more powerful the bloodline. Not long after the two sat down, a malicious gaze stared at Yi Qinghan. Who else could it be but Pafeng? Coincidentally, Pafeng had brought 7 or 8 experts, and his room was right across from Yi Qinghan's room. Perhaps even Yao Guang hadn't noticed. Otherwise, he wouldn't have arranged for Yi Qinghan to sit in this room. Yi Qinghan looked at Pafeng coldly. He didn't take him to heart and just waited for the auction hall to bring out something he was interested in. The early auction items were all trash. 90% of them were giant god rank or supreme rank items. Let alone Yi Qinghan, even the kings in the rooms weren't interested. Only when an item of the same rank appeared would the experts fight over it. Yi Qinghan looked at all the trash and couldn't raise his spirits. He didn't even bother to bid. Emperor Yi, on the other hand, saw some decent accessories and constantly competed with others. Pafeng would also bid and come over to disrupt. However, he was rich and didn't even frown. He bid until no one dared to bid. Even Pafeng didn't dare to cause trouble. The auction hall naturally welcomed Emperor Ye's straightforwardness, and the experts downstairs had no choice but to be wary. Yi Qinghan leaned against the chair and closed his eyes to rest. 2 hours had passed and he did not even open his eyes. It was as if he had fallen asleep. His consciousness extended into the depths of the world above the sea of bitterness. The order of the world was slowly forming. From the outside, Yi Qinghan's sea of bitterness was only a tiny speck of dust, but from the inside, it was as vast as the primordial wilderness. The vast path of the world, born in the end, opened in the dust, and finally vast. Yi Qinghan took the initiative to guide the birth of the world order. The stars collided and converged into a great star. The Milky Way was vast and boundless. One star after another was born. Yi Qinghan ignited the flames of life on a few extremely large stars. The flames burned into the sky like the sun, illuminating the vast territory. The more they burned, the more intense they became. The surrounding stars were burned into nothingness. A black hole appeared in the sky, sucking in everything in the galaxy and persisting in the birth of the sun. At this time, the auction hall had reached its climax. There seemed to be a lot of people participating, and all of them were experts. Even the sea dragons were participating. Dragon Pearl. Yi Qinghan's strand of consciousness heard the discussion and immediately opened his eyes. Yao Guang was actually personally holding a round pearl on the auction stage. There was a dragon-shaped image on the pearl. It seemed to be an imprint that had been there since birth. Yi Qinghan sat up straight and stared at the dragon pearl. He knew that this pearl was a pearl that was born when a sea dragon king or above passed away. The essence and energy of their entire life were all contained within the dragon pearl. The dragon-shaped image on the pearl was the appearance of the sea dragon king when they were alive. The better the color of the dragon pearl, the stronger the sea dragon was in its previous life, and the more terrifying the energy inside it was. A dragon pearl was equivalent to a pseudo-sector Lord Pinnacle or even an absolute circle expert. Its use wasn't just energy, but more importantly, it contained the sea dragon's memories and comprehension. More importantly, there was a legend that said the dragon pearl could give birth to a new young dragon under special circumstances. The moment it was born, it would possess the lifetime cultivation of a dragon expert. The life force it contained was indescribable. An ordinary person, after obtaining a dragon pearl, would become a pseudo-realm lord in just a matter of time. Their cultivation speed would be 10 times or even 1,000 times faster than others. For those with better talent, they would only need 3 to 5 years to reach the same level as others in 10,000 years. Dragon pearls were too rare. Many sea dragon experts wanted to seek for a chance to survive before reaching the end of their lifespan. They would enter the depths of the void ocean to look for opportunities. However, most of the sea dragon experts would turn into dragon pearls halfway through their journey. In the end, they would drift around the void ocean or sleep at the bottom of the ocean, rarely appearing in the world. Once a dragon pearl appeared in the 9 realms, the realm lords would come out to compete for it. Although the dragon pearl was a treasure of the sea dragon clan, it wasn't obtained by them. Now that it was being auctioned, they naturally wanted to buy it back. This was because the dragon pearl represented their ancestors. How could they let outsiders obtain the essence of their ancestors? What a beautiful dragon pearl! I want to buy it. Emperor Yi looked at Yi Qinghan, her eyes were full of expectation. She had never been willful, but now she was being willful. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and nodded, "Don't hesitate to bid. If you reach my bottom line, I'll let you know." "Is this thing a treasure?" Emperor Yi curiously asked. She only understood the external beauty of the dragon pearl, but she didn't know its true value. "Yes, it's a treasure. It's a very powerful treasure. It's 100 times more valuable than the origin sacred stone," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. "Wow, it seems like it's going to be lively." Emperor Yi rubbed her palms and stood up in excitement. She leaned against the window and stared at the dragon pearl in Yao Guang's hand. At this moment, Yao Guang spoke bluntly and firmly, "The dragon pearl is the most precious treasure of my sea dragon clan. It has nothing to do with resources, but because it's the essence of my ancestor, it's not allowed to be exposed. However, the owner of the dragon pearl doesn't agree to buy it privately. Therefore, my sea dragon clan will also participate in the competition. The base price is 1 million high-grade origin sacred stones. If you don't have enough origin sacred stones, you can use other resources to make up for it." Whoosh! The hall became lively. This kind of thing wasn't something they could compete for, but they could still watch the excitement. This might be the most precious thing that appeared in the last 1,000 years. Its price would certainly soar to an unimaginable level. The 10 major clans opened their windows. They were all on the 3rd floor. Their eyes told everyone that they must get this dragon pearl. They estimated that they would compete with the Sea Dragon clan for it. However, they didn't know that Yi Qinghan also wanted this dragon pearl. In the beginning, nobody made a bid. Everyone was waiting for the other party to make a move. Emperor Yi looked at the group of people staring at each other. Then he turned to Yi Qinghan and smiled, "How much should we call it?" Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and whispered, "Add 300,000 to the base price." When Emperor Yi heard this, he didn't hesitate to call out a price of 1,300,000. His voice was like the sound of nature, attracting everyone's attention. Nobody thought that the 10 major clans of the sea race wouldn't make a bid. Instead, a human girl made a bid first. Chapter 1458. Emperor Yi raised the price by 300,000 high-grade saint stones in one go, which was not a small amount. At the very least, it shocked many experts. Yao Guang was the most anxious when a competitor suddenly appeared. This was because Yi Qinghan was a big customer of the Sea Dragon clan. If they continued to compete like this, they would sooner or later offend the other party. Yao Guang quickly ordered an expert to organize the auction while he ran to Yi Qinghan's private room. 1,500,000, 1,600,000. The competition for the private room on the 3rd floor had already begun. Emperor Yi continued to raise the price, not even giving the others a chance to bid. The 10 major clans were going crazy as they raised the price to 2 million high-grade saint stones. This was already a good number. At this moment, Yao Guang knocked on the door and walked in. He saw Yi Qinghan sitting on a chair with his legs propped up on the table. He was very relaxed. Emperor Yi, on the other hand, was like a little madman who kept raising his paddle and calling out bids. "Mr. Yi, this dragon pearl is the life's work of my clan's elders. Can you not participate in the bidding?" Yao Guang asked. Yi Qinghan didn't open his eyes, but he shook his head and said, "It's rare for my wife to like a treasure. Naturally, I have to buy it. If you can't make the decision, then let the Void Dragon come and see me." "Mr. This." Yao Guang smiled bitterly. The Void Dragon had given him a death order that the Dragon Pearl must not be leaked. Otherwise, all the secrets of the Sea Dragon clan would no longer be secrets. "Don't worry, my wife is just buying it as a piece of jewelry. When she's done playing with it, she might return it to you," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Using the Dragon Pearl as a piece of jewelry? Yao Guang's eyes almost popped out. He felt as if he had heard a joke. "Yes, it's a child's nature. As elders, you should be more understanding. Look at her, it's rare for her to be in such a good mood. I will remember this favor," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Yao Guang was speechless. Outside, the 10 superpowers were engaged in a mad scramble for the Dragon Balls. Only Emperor Ye's thoughts were relatively simple. She just wanted a Dragon Ball to play with, while the other Sea clan members wanted to dig out the dragon's essence to increase their own clan's advantage and break through to the level of heavenly beasts. Heavenly beasts, not just anyone could become one. Perhaps each of the 10 great clans had at least one Peak King realm expert, or even more than one. After all, they had a long history, so it was normal for them to have 2 or 3 Peak King realm experts. However, none of them could reach the level of heavenly beasts. In order to become a heavenly beast, they were willing to pay any price. Because of this, when the bid reached 10 million, it had already exceeded the capacity of some formidable fishmen. 2 great fishmen clans had already withdrawn from the competition. However, there was one side that seemed to be more aggressive than the Sea Dragons, and that was the Deep Sea Shark clan. They were the most powerful clan in the Deep Sea aside from the Sea Dragons. They were bloodthirsty and greedy, even the Sea Dragons weren't willing to provoke them. Especially in the Deep Sea, no one dared to provoke them. 2 million. A rough voice resounded through the auction hall. At this moment, no one dared to speak. Even the sound of breathing and heartbeat could be heard clearly. Everyone was looking up at the 3rd floor. Emperor Yi and a big man in a private room on the 3rd floor looked at each other. Their auras weren't weak, and their tempers weren't small either. The Deep Sea Shark clan expert's aura was violent. His eyes were red, and just looking at him made people feel cold. Not many people were willing to look at him. The other experts looked somewhat human and had some human emotions. However, this Shark clan expert didn't have any human emotions. At a glance, one could tell that he was a vicious and ruthless character. "Little bastard, you can buy it, but can you take it away?" The mad Shark clan expert had a sinister expression. His fierce-looking muscles bulged out, especially his fangs. They were actually black like pseudo-world artifacts. No matter what kind of defensive artifact it was, they would be torn apart. He was furious because Emperor Yi had angered him, so he threatened him coldly. Emperor Yi wasn't afraid of him. Yi Qinghan didn't stop him from bidding. This meant that the price was worth it. After being scolded by the Deep Sea Shark clan expert, Emperor Yi curled his lips and said, "You're really worthy of being a beast from the deep sea. You don't have any manners. Aside from cursing and threatening, you don't have any human form. You're just a bit stronger. Don't be so rampant on land." Cluck cluck cluck. The Deep Sea Shark clan expert was furious. His teeth were grinding and gnashing. The sound was very horrifying. It gave people goosebumps and made them tremble. Emperor Yi shook his bracelet, and a heavenly melody broke the sound of the Shark clan expert's teeth grinding. Only then did everyone's souls feel slightly better. Stop. This is the auction hall, not the interior of the void ocean. If there's a problem, then go ahead and fight. Otherwise, my Sea Dragon clan won't be easy to deal with. Yao Guang angrily stopped the Shark Clan expert. The Deep-Sea Shark Clan expert stared at Emperor Yi with his red eyes. He took a deep breath, suppressed his anger, and gave up on the competition. However, his eyes didn't show that he had given up. He was waiting for Emperor Yi to get the Dragon Pearl so that he could compete with him. Looking at the Deep-Sea Shark Clan expert's eyes, Emperor Yi didn't show any fear. The other oceanic species experts could also see that the Deep-Sea Shark Clan expert was angry. They also gave up on the competition. Since it was useless to continue bidding, they simply gave up and prepared to compete with the Deep-Sea Shark Clan for the Dragon Pearl. Yao Guang waved his hand, and the Sea Dragon Clan expert also stopped bidding. The Dragon Pearl was obtained by Emperor Yi. Yao Guang's face turned solemn as he reminded, the Deep-Sea Shark Clan is very violent. Some of their bodies are even bigger than the dragons. They don't have any natural enemies. If you offend them, it would be impossible for you to leave the void ocean. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and asked, how many deep-sea sharks are there? Innumerable. However, there are less than 1,000 of them that can transform into humans. They are very intelligent, very cold, and very calm. Once they set their eyes on someone, they wouldn't give up until they reach their goal. My Sea Dragon clan wouldn't be willing to be enemies with them under normal circumstances. Yao Guang reminded. Yi Qinghan retracted his legs and sat upright. He no longer had a sloppy appearance as he said, give me a copy of the information about the Shark Clan. I hope that they don't provoke me before I leave. Otherwise, I'll let the Shark Clan's blood dye the sea red. Yao Guang smiled bitterly and shook his head before leaving the room. Emperor Yi received the Dragon Pearl and couldn't bear to part with it. As for Yi Qinghan, he paid the Origin Sacred Stones. If the Origin Sacred Stones weren't enough, he also took out some resources as compensation. However, the Shark Clan expert's eyes didn't leave Yi Qinghan's room. It was obvious that he was eyeing the two of them. Humph! What a barbaric and cruel race. They don't have any emotions. I really don't know how they managed to cultivate to this point. Emperor Yi snorted in dissatisfaction. Anything is possible in the deep sea. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. This place was too dangerous. The races here were far more numerous than the ones in the nine-world sky. A terrifying existence could appear at any time. Even if they had never seen it before, they would still have to face it. Chapter 1459. Baleful aura filled the auction hall. Everyone was filled with hostility. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi weren't worried at all. They definitely couldn't defeat Yi Qinghan in a fight. But if they wanted to escape, they wouldn't be able to catch him unless a few absolute perfection realm experts worked together. Yi Qinghan sipped his tea casually while looking at the lively atmosphere in the auction hall. He was waiting for a treasure that could move his heart. However, other than the clamor, no other treasure appeared. Even if it was a decent treasure, it couldn't move his heart. After cultivating to the pseudo-realm lord level, there weren't any treasures that could move Yi Qinghan's heart. This was because his soul spirit was that of a realm lord and his physical body was freakish. Other than materials at the level of a realm lord and resources at the level of a realm lord, he didn't need anything else. However, Yi Qinghan still participated in the bidding. He wasted a lot of resources to bid for some items of the same level. After bidding for a few items, he stopped bidding. This was because he used the Dragon Immortal Grass to pay for the items. In his eyes, the Dragon Immortal Grass was more important than other treasures. It was just that he had too many Dragon Immortal Grass. After the auction ended, the people in the auction hall weren't satisfied and left noisily. Yi Qinghan stood up and prepared to leave with Emperor Yi. However, at this moment, more than 10 divine senses locked onto their private room. They didn't have any scruples and had a clear target. They weren't afraid of offending anyone. It was obvious that they wanted to force their way in. Let's go and play with them first. Yi Qinghan smiled. Emperor Yi wasn't worried. The strongest expert among the 10 great oceanic clans was only at the peak pseudo-realm lord level. None of them were at the absolute perfection realm. Even if he wasn't a match for them, he wouldn't be able to beat Yi Qinghan to the point where he couldn't retaliate. The two left the auction hall and brought the group of experts for a stroll in the inner city. It was like walking a dog. Their speed was neither fast nor slow. At this moment, the silver snake female cultivator met up with Yi Qinghan. Not long after, she discovered that the 10 great oceanic clans were following Yi Qinghan. Their eyes were filled with hostility and killing intent. The silver snake female cultivator's face turned pale. She secretly cursed herself for provoking someone she shouldn't have. My lord, did you offend the 10 great sea clans? The silver snake female cultivator asked tentatively. Yi Qinghan calmly replied, no, they offended me. Is there a difference? The silver snake female cultivator asked with a bitter smile. Of course there is. If I offend them, they will want to kill me. If they offend me, I will want to kill them. Why is there no difference? Yi Qinghan retorted. The silver snake female cultivator was speechless. Don't worry, just point the way. Leave the killing to me. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist, and the stone sword imprint on his arm blossomed with divine light. The energy fluctuations distorted space and time. The 10 experts of the sea race had been following Yi Qinghan this entire time. Around 10 of them were in hot pursuit, while another group had already reached the outskirts of the city. There was another group at the border of the land and sea. They transformed into their true forms and entered the sea of nothingness, waiting for Yi Qinghan to appear. There were 3 groups of people. Even if Yi Qinghan could shake off the first group, it would be difficult for him to shake off the second group. Son, enter the Yinshir's pot first. You won't be able to help. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and sent Emperor Yi into the Yinshir's pot. The evil spirit expert in the Yinshir's pot was already exhausted from Yi Qinghan's torture. He didn't have much energy left. He quietly lay on the surface of the water, gradually adapting to the filth and the power of the world in the Yinshir's pot. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan grabbed the silver snake female cultivator and rushed out of the city. There wasn't even an afterimage. It was a complete teleportation. Like a beam of light, he shook off the first group of experts and skipped over the second group, heading straight for the sea of nothingness. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan used stellar transposition. He stepped on the leaves and appeared 1,000,000 miles away. The experts behind him were in hot pursuit. Where are the reefs? Yi Qinghan asked the silver snake female cultivator. With more reefs, it meant that the movement of the large sea beasts would be restricted. If he wanted to fight with the ocean race experts, he would have to suppress their strength first. Southwest, drifting sand archipelago. There aren't any experts living there. The surrounding 10,000 miles are filled with reefs. The silver snake female cultivator quickly said. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yi Qinghan changed his direction and dove down. He appeared above the sea of nothingness in the southwest, stepping on the huge waves as he traveled. Boom! A ferocious sea beast appeared in the sky. It had wings and 4 thick limbs. Its figure flashed as it rode the wind and waves. Its speed wasn't much slower than Yi Qinghan's. About 100 miles behind it, there were 9 different sea beasts. However, their speed wasn't any slower and their cultivation was about the same as Yi Qinghan's. The one closest to us is the Broken Sea race's second elder, Pagong. His advantages are speed and strength. He has the ability to destroy the sea of nothingness. He can spit out lightning and rain arrows. His cultivation realm is peak pseudo-sector lord. He is one minor realm higher than me. His battle strength is 100 times mine. The silver snake female cultivator's face was pale as she quickly explained. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan didn't reply. He just flashed in the sky. Ping! The broken gong charged into the void ocean, and its speed suddenly doubled. It instantly closed the distance between them. Hua hua hua. Pagong swept up waves as it rode the wind and broke through the sea. The faster it got, the stronger the ripples on the sea became. Its aura was extremely terrifying. Pagong's body was as huge as a mountain. However, its speed made humans blush with shame. Ge, the silver snake female cultivator was almost scared to death. Her teeth were chattering. The pressure from the bloodline made it hard for her to breathe. Yi Qinghan's peak speed and chi attack made her understand how small she was. At this level of battle, even the shockwaves could shatter her body. Ing! The stone sword imprint on Yi Qinghan's arm was about to burst out of his body. The sword chi wreaked havoc as it broke through the resistance and rushed towards Quicksand Islands. Quicksand Islands was right in front of him. Yi Qinghan stepped into the center of Quicksand Islands. He casually sent the silver snake female cultivator into the Incher's gourd and summoned the evil ghost, throwing it into the sea. The stone sword appeared in his hand. Boom! Yi Qinghan stabbed the stone sword into the rock. The stone sword was so sharp that the rock didn't even crack. It was as weak as tofu. Yi Qinghan smiled. He leaned on the stone sword and stood with his arms crossed. He quietly watched Pagong rush over. Boom boom boom. Hua hua hua. Before Pagong reached Quicksand Islands, the waves had already shattered the clouds and smashed into the rocks by the sea. The waves splashed and a torrential rain fell on Quicksand Islands. The heavy rain poured down. However, when it landed on Yi Qinghan's head, it automatically dispersed. It was as if there was an invisible barrier around him. Boom! 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 Yi Qinghan's veins popped out. His body became much bigger as he returned to his giant blood race form. He reached out his hand to grab the stone sword's hilt. His eyes were filled with flickering flames. CSISI. The stone sword was pulled out. A domineering aura soared into the sky. The power of the world attached itself to the stone sword and tore through space and time. The heavy rain drifted. The forest on Quicksand Islands swayed crazily. Pagong swept the void ocean over. Huge waves surged to the sky, wanting to drown Quicksand Islands. Hua! All the seabirds soared into the sky. They didn't dare to stay on Quicksand Islands. The water curtain that covered the sky pressed down on Quicksand Islands. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches as they pierced through the void. He found the main body of Pagong. His body twisted as he became one with the sword. He pierced through the water curtain and attacked Pagong. Chapter 1460. Ding! The stone sword was extremely ordinary. It only had a bit of cold light, but it was extremely sharp. It automatically broke through space and the resistance of the waves, breaking through the water curtain in an instant. The broken gong's huge body appeared in front of him. Its huge tail swept across, rolling up huge waves and smashing towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's huge body was almost 3 meters tall, but in front of the broken gong, it was like an ant, unable to withstand a single blow. Ant! Die! Boom! The huge tail split the sea apart, revealing a deep abyss. Yi Qinghan had just arrived above the abyss. Bang! Puchi! The huge tail swung onto the stone sword in Yi Qinghan's hand. The seemingly ordinary stone sword instantly sank into the broken gong's flesh, ignoring defense and attack. Hiss hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan borrowed the force of the stone sword and leaped forward. Holding the sword hilt, he slid from the end of the broken gong to its head. The surface of its long body was full of bumps and hollows, but under the impact of the stone sword, it was as fragile as rotten wood. Blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the sea red. Roar! Roar! The broken gong let out a blood-curdling screech, rolling outside the ocean of nothingness. It crashed into the reefs, shattering them and causing the sea to churn and turn red. Yi Qinghan was sent flying by the violent vibrations. He soared into the sky and then fell from the sky, stabbing into the broken gong's head. Roar! Hua! Shio that the broken gong sucked in a mouthful of seawater and spat it out, forming a rain of arrows that surrounded Yi Qinghan tightly. There was no way for him to dodge. Swish swish swish. Yi Qinghan's body spun, flames bursting out. His entire body turned into a fire dragon that charged down from the sky. His aura was like a rainbow, and he did not retreat even half a step. Powerful. One man and one beast pounced on each other. After the broken gong spat out the rain of arrows, it swung its huge tail towards the sea and rushed out of the ocean of nothingness. It opened its mouth and wanted to swallow Yi Qinghan. Boom boom boom. Bang. The rain of arrows was as hard as steel, but they shattered upon contact with the stone sword. The patterns on the stone sword emitted a special energy that tore everything apart. It could shatter the rain of arrows from more than 10 meters away. Open! Yi Qinghan roared as he swept the stone sword horizontally, aiming straight for the broken gong's teeth. Roar! SSSS. An ear-piercing sound spread out in all directions. The broken gong's teeth were cut open by the stone sword like rotten wood. No matter how hard the teeth were, they could not withstand a single blow from the stone sword. Pagong's huge eyes were filled with fear. All of the teeth in its upper jaw had been shaved off. This was fatal for it. Without its teeth, it was like a human without arms. It had no chance of fighting back against its own kind. Roar! Roar! Pagong let out a long whistle. Seeing Yi Qinghan's figure flash and charge at him again, he quickly shut his mouth, afraid that his teeth would be cut off as well. Bang! The broken gong fell into the sea, twisting its body in an attempt to escape. However, Yi Qinghan didn't give it the chance to do so. His body expanded as his great bloodline erupted. His body continued to grow, and the stone sword actually followed suit. It was completely capable of communicating with its master's thoughts. Since you dared to provoke me, you should be prepared to die. Yi Qinghan roared as he descended on Pagong's body like a giant god. His legs wrapped around Pagong's back as he stabbed the stone sword into its head. Roar! Pagong let out a blood-curdling scream as it stood up. Its back slammed into the sea, hoping to shake off Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was extremely agile. With just a slide of his body, he appeared at Pagong's abdomen. With a push of his toes, he appeared at Pagong's throat. Die! Puchi! The huge stone sword pierced Pagong's throat. The patterns on the stone sword shone brightly as it crushed Pagong's flesh and blood. From the outside, it looked like only Pagong's throat had been pierced. However, from the inside, the order of its flesh and blood had been disrupted. The most terrifying thing was that half of its life force had been wiped out. Boom! Pagong fell heavily into the sea as a jet of water gushed out from its throat. The surrounding seawater was completely dyed red. Roar! Pagong kept running deeper into the sea. The blood water was tumbling. The underwater pressure was too great. Yi Qinghan did not want to take any more risks. Plus, there were other elites coming from afar. He pulled out the stone sword and ran upward. Roar! The sea water at the bottom of the sea was tumbling. It suddenly became abnormal. The undercurrent swept Yi Qinghan away. Even Pagong's giant body was pushed back. Roar. Pagong screamed. His head was severed. A giant deep-sea shark appeared before Yi Qinghan. Its fangs were like pseudo-world weapons. They tore through Pagong's defenses like they were rotten wood. It tore Pagong's head off and swallowed it. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air as he watched the deep-sea giant shark's huge body tremble. When it swallowed Pagong's body again, Yi Qinghan's body turned into a stream of light and rushed to the surface of the sea. There was no way he could be a match for the deep-sea giant shark at the bottom of the sea. Hua! The deep-sea shark only moved its body. The undercurrent at the bottom of the sea was like a black hole. It tore at Yi Qinghan. Even with his freakish body, his speed was reduced by half. Yi Qinghan swung the stone sword and slashed wildly. He broke the undercurrent and ran like crazy. But he was not as fast as the shark. All he could do was run back and forth. He changed directions to suppress the shark's speed. Ant! I told you that even if you bought the Dragon Ball, you would not be able to take it away. You dare to make me your enemy? You must have a death wish. The shark spoke in human language. It was moving slowly in the deep sea. It was very scary. Yi Qinghan did not have this ability. The shark was a creature of the deep sea. He could not compete. Gurgle gurgle. The surface of the sea became a red sea. The blood water was tumbling. There were a few figures above the sea. They were the other sea race elites. They kept coming. Once they surrounded Yi Qinghan, no matter how fast he was, he would be suppressed underwater. He would not have a chance to escape. Damn it! Yi Qinghan's powerful divine sense discovered the other sea race elites rushing over. He could not help but feel anxious. With a thought, the world desolates. Everything within my divine sense will be my domain. Yi Qinghan tightened his divine sense. He only controlled the domain within a radius of 10 miles. He actually teleported in the water. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Yi Qinghan used stellar transposition. He broke through the resistance of the sea and appeared on the surface. He tapped his toes and rushed into Quicksand Island. Boom! The shark leaped up. Its body was as big as an island. Its teeth were as big as stone swords. The force of its bite was enough to shatter the island. Hua! The giant shark opened its mouth and was about to swallow the entire Quicksand Island. If Yi Qinghan was bitten by the teeth, even Yuling clothes would not be able to protect him. This was a pure physical attack. Yuling clothes could only defend against divine power attacks. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan fled with his sword. He fled into the void and circled around Quicksand Island. There were too many reefs below. The shark's speed would definitely be suppressed. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.